Chapter 4202. East Continent. Sea God's Island. At this moment, the core members of the oceanic race were all gathered in the sky and looking at the sky. Terrifying ripples of battle surged out from the Star River like a tide. From the sounds of the battle, one could tell that the battle was in the depths of the Star River. Even so, it was like the end of the world outside. This showed how terrifying the battle in the Star River was. In the distance, as a space-time tunnel appeared, Qin Feiyang and the other two walked out one after another. They immediately raised their heads and looked at the sky. The black-shirted young man, the brocade-robed young man and the bearded man also walked out. Their faces were filled with shock when they felt the shocking waves. "Why are you following us?" The white-eyed wolf glanced at the three of them. The brocade-robed young man was dazed. He turned to the three and smiled, "Just to watch. You don't know what's good for you. Is this something you can watch?" The white-eyed wolf said in disdain. "What did you say?" The brocade-robed young man raised his eyebrows with a hint of anger. "We just borrowed the tunnel. What's there to be proud of?" The white-eyed wolf took out the enforcer's token. The brocade-robed young man's expression changed when he saw the enforcer's token. Although he was also from a famous family, he didn't dare to act recklessly in front of the enforcers of Mount Supreme. The black-shirted young man and the bearded man were also shocked. They quickly bowed and said, "Greetings, enforcers." The brocade-robed young man's face turned pale and he hurriedly said, "I didn't recognize you. Please forgive me." The white-eyed wolf looked around in disdain. Buzz. Clang. Time tunnels and time teleportation divine artifacts appeared in the sky. Figures flew out one after another. There were the human race, the celestial race, the beast race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race. Because this was the Sea God's Island, the sacred land of the oceanic race, they had to be able to protect themselves. Boom! Suddenly, a few powerful auras appeared. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked over and saw Heavenly Lord Ji, the God race and the human race step out of the time tunnel. "Why are they here?" "Monarch, Divine King, where is Ji Zun?" White-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. "Are you stupid? Didn't old Qin destroy their bodies in the land of nothingness? Right now, I'm repairing my body." Madman rolled his eyes at him. "Yeah." The white-eyed wolf smacked his head and laughed dryly. "What a stupid question. Let's go. Follow them." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He brought the white-eyed wolf and the crazy one to the front of the human Great Venerable. He bowed and said, "Greetings, Venerable." "You are?" The Great Venerable was looking at the sky. When he heard this, he couldn't help but size up the two of them with suspicion. "The three of us are law enforcers." Qin Feiyang took out the law enforcement token. There were a lot of enforcers in Mount Supreme. All enforcers belonged to the Law Enforcement Hall and were led by the Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall. The Great Venerable was second only to the Supremes of the human race in Mount Supreme. He basically wouldn't ask about the matters of the Law Enforcement Hall. Even if there was something, the Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall would meet the Great Venerable in person, so he wasn't familiar with the law enforcers below him. Seeing Qin Feiyang take out the token, he didn't suspect anything. However, he frowned and said, "What are you doing here?" Qin Feiyang put away the token and said respectfully, "We received news that Qin Batian has appeared, so we came to investigate." "I see." The Great Venerable nodded and asked, "What's the situation now?" "I don't know. I've just arrived." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Let's go up and take a look." Heavenly Lord Ji didn't pay much attention to Qin Feiyang and the other two because they had changed their appearances. "It's dangerous here. Leave quickly." The Great Venerable said to Qin Feiyang and the other two, then flew into the sky with Heavenly Lord Ji and the Great Venerable of the God race. Well, Qin Feiyang's expression stiffened. He wanted to get close to the Great Venerable because he wanted to enter the Universe River with the Great Venerable to watch the battle. Because the entrance to the Universe River must have been blocked. With their current identities, Neptune and the others wouldn't give them any face. But unexpectedly, the Great Venerable was so concerned about his subordinates that he wanted them to leave this place as soon as possible. "Uncle, take us with you." The mad scientist rolled his eyes and said. "Huh?" Heavenly Lord Ji was startled. "Uncle? Who was talking to him?" "It's us. Me, mad scientist." The mad scientist thought. Mad scientist? Heavenly Lord Ji was startled and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. The mad scientist immediately winked, which was very funny. Heavenly Lord Ji immediately realized and the corner of his mouth twitched. It was these three little bastards. They're really bold. Not only did they pretend to be the enforcers of Mount Supreme, but they also secretly came to the Sea God's Island. What's wrong? The two venerables looked at Heavenly Lord Ji suspiciously when they saw him suddenly stop. Nothing. Heavenly Lord Ji waved his hand and waved at Qin Feiyang and the other two. "You three come with us." "They're coming with us?" The venerable of the human race was startled. "Yes. If there's an emergency, they can also ask for help on behalf of us." Heavenly Lord Ji nodded. "That's true." The venerable of the human race nodded. After all, the one who appeared now wasn't an ordinary person, but Qin Batian. He was someone who wasn't any weaker than Heavenly Lord Ji. When the time came, Qin Feiyang and the others might even come after hearing the news. So, Qin Feiyang and the other two followed Heavenly Lord Ji and the other two and flew into the sky. Seeing Heavenly Lord Ji and the other two, the members of the Oceanids gathered in the sky all bowed and then retreated to the side, making a path for them. Although the three of them weren't as powerful as the king, the Divine King and the 9 Supremes, they still had a lot of prestige in the Divine Kingdom. The closer they got to the Star River, the more intense the battle became. "I say, you three brats, why are you guys everywhere?" Heavenly Lord Ji flew towards the Star River and said with a helpless tone. "It's such a big matter, of course we have to come and take a look." The madman snickered. Heavenly Lord Ji rolled his eyes and thought, "Then why are you calling me uncle? Aren't you messing up the seniority? Is that so? Qin Batian and I are brothers, and you're Qin Batian's uncle. Although it's a bit rude for me to call you uncle, the seniority isn't messed up." The madman snickered secretly. "What? You're brothers with him? Then what's your relationship with Qin Feiyang?" Heavenly Lord Ji was a bit confused. What was going on? Old Qin and I? The madman paused for a second and snickered. "Of course we're brothers." Heavenly Lord Ji's mouth twitched. He was brothers with Qin Batian and Qin Feiyang. What a messy relationship. Actually, according to seniority, Qin Feiyang should also call me Ancestral Patriarch. But there's no other way. He's very unruly and has no respect for his elders. If you have time, you can teach him a good lesson. The madman snickered. Heavenly Lord Ji couldn't help but show a look of disdain. "You're talking as if you're very well behaved. You're just trash, and you still have the cheek to talk about others?" Finally, the 6 of them arrived at the entrance of the Star River. Yu Lao, Neptune, the Dragon God, Lu Jiajin and the other 8 elites of the Central Dynasty were all there. "Why are you here? Where are the king and the others?" The Dragon God raised his eyebrows. Heavenly Lord Ji frowned and looked at the Dragon God with a cold face. Father was seriously injured by Qin Feiyang in the Void Land. "Don't you know about this?" The Dragon God was startled and then looked a bit embarrassed. Humph. Heavenly Lord Ji snorted and bowed. Greetings, Senior Yu Lao. Father knew that Qin Batian had appeared, so he asked me to come and help. Emicham, Yu Lao nodded and glanced at the two overlords, then glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others. He didn't pay much attention to them and looked into the depths of the Star River. Qin Feiyang and the others stood behind Heavenly Lord Ji and looked into the depths of the Star River. On the battlefield, thousands of figures kept colliding. They were the inner demons and the young man. The thousands of extra figures were their 3,000 incarnations and their demon king true bodies. Ultimate intents collided crazily, causing the Star River in all directions to collapse. The battle was extremely fierce. Are you sure you're Qin Batian? The inner demons laughed. If I'm not Qin Batian, where would I get my 3,000 incarnations? Even though he was fighting with the inner demons, the young man still looked sleepy and yawned. I didn't expect Qin Batian to be so strong. The Qin clan is really impressive, but you're all defeated in front of me. The inner demon's eyes flashed with a hint of playfulness. The ultimate intent of life and death roared and the will of heaven burst out. As Qin Batian's inner demons, how could he not know what Qin Batian looked like? Although he hadn't entered the ancient world when he entered the divine ruins for the second time and hadn't seen Qin Batian's true body with his own eyes, there were statues of Qin Batian in the sacred land of the great Qin and the mermaid race. So, he immediately recognized that the man in front of him was an impostor. However, he had also heard of the matter regarding the young man Qin Feiyang barging into the Scandinavia. Since the young man had impersonated Qin Batian, he had already obtained Qin Feiyang's approval, so he didn't expose him. Of course, he didn't dare to expose it in front of him. After all, there was still a consciousness in his body that was monitoring him. The moment the inner demons activated the ultimate intent of life and death, the 3,000 demon king true bodies also activated the ultimate intent of life and death. Their combat strength instantly soared. Heavenly Lord Ji and the two supremacies couldn't help but narrow their eyes when they saw this scene. After the king and the other two returned, they had told them about the strength of the inner demons. But even though they already knew in advance, they couldn't help but shudder when they saw it with their own eyes. Qin Feiyang's strength was already obvious to all. However, at this moment, a man who wasn't inferior to Qin Feiyang at all was born in the divine kingdom. What kind of monsters were these? They had actually comprehended the rarely seen intent of life and death. If it were them, they wouldn't be a match for the inner demons at all. No. It was a complete suppression. A complete suppression without any power to fight back. How can he break the ultimate intent of life and death? Qin Feiyang and the other two also looked at the young man with anticipation. The young man's strength had always been a mystery. No matter how strong they had become, they could always feel an invisible pressure when facing the young man. Perhaps this time, the battle between the young man and the inner demons could let them completely see his strength. Chapter 4203 Rumble 3001 Ultimate profundities of the law of life and death shot towards the young man. The laws of life and death. The young man raised his head and glanced at the 3001 ultimate laws, and the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up slightly. Seeing this expression, Qin Feiyang and the other two shuddered. This was a display of confidence. And it was not ordinary confidence. There was even a trace of contempt in his eyes. Seeing that the 3001 laws of life and death were about to come, the young man raised his arm and crossed his index finger and thumb, and a crisp finger snap sounded in the galaxy. The next moment, the dog's tail grass in his mouth suddenly erupted with a monstrous power. A colorful origin force rolled out from it. What? Origin energy. The appearance of this scene shocked everyone. That's right. This was the origin energy. Last time when the young man used the origin energy in the void, Heavenly Lord Ji and the two supremacies were present, so they knew how powerful the origin energy was. Neptune, the dragon god, and Yu Lao could not help but show a trace of horror on their faces. Because this matter was not unfamiliar to them. Although they did not see it with their own eyes back then, they had long heard of it. It was said that the origin energy this person controlled was even more powerful than the origin energy of the divine kingdom. At that time, even the sovereigns were helpless. How could they not be afraid of this kind of source energy? As for Qin Feiyang and the other two, they were more furious. That bastard! Back then in the void, he had clearly told them that he only had one source of origin energy. But now, another source of origin energy had popped out of nowhere. No. It was not just one, but a whole bunch. This was obviously a bluff back then. Unreliable guy. At the same time, the smile on the inner demon's face also froze. Origin energy, who exactly was this guy? Rumble. A large amount of origin energy turned into a huge wave and rolled out. A shocking scene appeared. The heart demon's 3001 life and death laws couldn't even withstand a single blow, instantly collapsing apart like a piece of dead wood. Poof! The inner demon spat out a mouthful of blood. And here I was wondering how strong he was. The young man shook his head. Damn you! If you have the guts, then fight me with your true abilities. The inner demons roared. The source energy had already far surpassed the limits of the laws. What was there to be arrogant about relying on this kind of power to defeat him? Isn't this true ability? The young man waved his hand, and the origin energy flooded the sky and surged toward the inner demons. Lu Jiajin's face darkened. He took a step forward and landed in front of the inner demons, opening his eye of void. A fighting soul wants to shake the origin energy? Brat, you're too naive. The young man shook his head and sneered. Boom! Before he finished speaking. With a loud bang, the source energy roared out and the nihility eye was destroyed on the spot. Lu Jiajin vomited a mouthful of blood as his face paled. He was greatly shocked. How did this little cousin know such a terrifying person? Just this source power was completely capable of insta-killing anyone. The origin energy did not stop and continued to attack the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Dragon God, save them. Yu Lao's expression changed. The dragon god instinctively took out the origin energy, but he hesitated. He only had this one source of origin energy. If it was destroyed here, how could he fight with Qin Feiyang in the future? Because he knew very well. The reason why Qin Feiyang did not come to find trouble with him was because of this source of origin energy in his hand. Once he lost it, Qin Feiyang would receive the news and immediately come to kill him. When the time came, wouldn't that be a dead end? Qin Feiyang and the other two could not help but look at the dragon god and laugh in their hearts. Why don't you try? Let's see if today will be your death anniversary. What are you doing? Yu Lao glared at the dragon god. Yu Lao, hearing this, the dragon god suddenly panicked and hurriedly said, "This source of origin energy of mine is not his opponent." What he meant was, it was useless to make a move. Instead, it would be a waste of this source of origin energy. Selfish scoundrel. Yu Lao was furious. How could he not know the dragon god's plan? Grabbing that source of origin energy, he went to rescue the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Yu Lao, the dragon god's body stiffened. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other, and a trace of killing intent flashed in their eyes. Neptune and the dragon god were standing in front of them. If they did not make a move now, when would they? Stop. However, at this moment, a majestic voice sounded. Qin Feiyang and the other two were startled and quickly looked in the direction of the voice, because this voice was very unfamiliar. When they looked up at Lu Jiajin and the inner demons, a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. They saw a beam of light flash out of Lu Jiajin's body, and the next moment, it turned into a blurry figure in front of Lu Jiajin and the inner demons. "My lord!" Yu Lao was shocked. "Greetings, my lord." The 8 elites of the Central Dynasty also hurriedly bowed. "My lord." Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were shocked. This was the lord of the Central Dynasty? Heavenly Lord Ji and the 2 overlords looked at each other with shock in their eyes. It seemed that this lord was also quite unfamiliar to them. "This is not the real body of the lord, but a consciousness," the white-eyed wolf said. Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist nodded. This was something that they had already noticed. "I understand. The reason why the inner demons and Lu Jiajin didn't dare to communicate with us must be because of this consciousness of the Lord," the mad scientist said. "Yes." Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf also felt refreshed after hearing this. The doubts in their hearts were finally solved. No wonder the inner demons and the mad scientist didn't dare to talk to them. It turned out that the Lord was monitoring them. "Stand down." The Lord looked at Yu Lao and stopped him. "Yes." Yu Lao nodded respectfully and retreated to the Dragon God and Neptune. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at each other and had to suppress the murderous intent in their hearts. "Let's talk." The Lord looked at the young man and said. His tone was very gentle. Because this origin power made him very wary and he didn't dare to be aggressive. "Talk about what?" The young man waved his hand and the origin power stopped. The Lord heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it stopped, there was still room for negotiation. However, the next moment, the corners of the young man's mouth rose, and the origin power moved and instantly drowned the Lord. The Lord was furious. "You think you're qualified to talk to me? If you want to talk to me, let your Lord come." The young man's lazy expression was full of disdain. The Lord's consciousness was annihilated on the spot. "What?" Yu Lao's expression suddenly became dull. Even if the Lord came, it was useless. But it wasn't over yet. The origin power also mercilessly drowned the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at this scene, and their hearts jumped out. "Don't move. I know their identities. I'm doing this for your own good." Just when the 3 were about to stop the young man's voice sounded in their minds. "What's the situation?" The 3 looked at each other. How did this person know the identity of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin? The most ridiculous thing was, why did he say that killing the inner demons and big cousin was for their own good? Accompanied by a painful scream, the bodies of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin were directly shattered. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were burning with anxiety. But they didn't dare to be impulsive. Because they really didn't know what the young man wanted to do. If the young man had any plans, if they acted rashly now, they might make the young man's plan fall short. "Qin Badian, you're too presumptuous." But at this time, another angry roar sounded. "The Lord?" Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were stunned. Hadn't the Lord's consciousness been destroyed by the young man before? Why was there still his voice? They quickly looked up and found that there was also the Lord's consciousness in the shattered head of the inner demons. However, as soon as this consciousness appeared, it was obliterated by the origin power, leaving only a roar that echoed in the Star River for a long time. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 seemed to understand something. "Have mercy!" Yu Lao roared, his eyes full of anger. Because the souls of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin were also about to be obliterated. The 2 of them were the heavenly talents carefully cultivated by the Central Dynasty. If the 2 of them died here, there would be no one in the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom who could compete with Qin Feiyang and the others. The young man's eyes flashed, and as he waved his hand, the origin power spread out like a tide, forming a barrier that imprisoned the inner demons and Lu Jiajin's souls. Then he looked towards Elder Yu and said playfully, "If you want me to let them go, I can." Yu Lao's eyes trembled, and he quickly asked, "What do you want? Do you think there's anything in this world that can catch my eye?" The young man's face was full of ridicule. Yu Lao fell silent. Indeed. He even had such a terrifying origin power, what else would he want? Actually, you can easily give me what I want. Kneel down and kowtow to me 99 times. The young man grinned. What? Yu Lao's body stiffened. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other, and their faces couldn't help but twitch. 99 kowtows? Wasn't this clearly making things difficult for Elder Yu? As a person from the Central Dynasty, even giants like Neptune and the monarch had to respect him. Making such a person kneel down in public and kowtow to him 99 times was probably worse than killing him. Hey! This method of torturing people is not bad, I can record it in my grimoire. The white-eyed wolf snickered. Grimoire? What grimoire? Qin Feiyang and the madman were suspicious. A grimoire for torturing people, it's better to live than to die. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Qin Feiyang and the madman were speechless. It was purely because they had nothing to do and were bored to death. What? Not willing? Seeing that Yu Lao was silent for a long time, a cold light flashed in the young man's eyes. Everyone looked at Yu Lao. They thought, does this Qin Badian have a grudge against Yu Lao? Why is he so against me? I can agree to any other conditions. Even if it's my life. Elder Yu enunciated each word clearly and forcefully. Your life is not worth a single cent, the young man shook his head. Bastard, Yu Lao glared and roared, why are you humiliating me like this? Not to mention his identity, just his strength alone. He had mastered the ultimate profundities of the 8 supreme laws and was stronger than any of the giants in the 4 great continents. The value of a person like him could not be measured by money. But at this moment, this person actually said that he was worthless? This was simply trampling on his dignity. I haven't fully recovered yet, so I'm writing very slowly. The 3rd chapter will be released later. Chapter 4204. Why? The young man's eyes turned cold, and his lazy look was replaced by a fierce aura. Why don't you know? How dare you bully the descendant of Qin Badian? Who gave you the courage? This change startled Qin Feiyang and the other two. At this moment, the young man was like a ferocious beast baring its fangs, making them shudder. He's really here to avenge Qin Feiyang. The 2 supremacies whispered. It was really enviable to have such an ancestor. But they didn't know that Qin Feiyang, the person involved, was very upset. What kind of ancestor was this? They had nothing to do with each other. But then again, he had so many people around him. Why did this guy pretend to be his ancestor? At the same time, Yu Lao couldn't help but laugh bitterly. He didn't expect to get into such a big trouble. If he really wanted to pursue the matter, he should go to the emperor, because it was the emperor who ordered him to bring the 10 elites to the 4 great continents. Kneel. You have no choice. You can't die even if you want to. The young man curled the corners of his mouth. Anyway, I'm going to defeat you today. Yu Lao struggled. He would rather die than kneel. Not to mention that he was in front of everyone. If he really knelt, he was sure that in less than an hour, everyone in the 4 great continents would know. He couldn't afford to lose face. But, if he didn't kneel, the price he had to pay would be unbearable. Because the other party had the origin energy. Even if he wanted to die, it was not up to him. You're quite stubborn. Fine. I'll kill you one by one. After killing all the elites of the Central Dynasty, I'll kill the merfolk, then the beast race, and then the deity race. I'll let you watch how I massacre the divine kingdom. I'll make sure you can't get rid of the shadow of fear in your next life. The young man's eyes were full of murderous intent. The origin energy transformed into a giant sword and slashed towards the 8 prodigies. Yu Lao, the 8 sky prides roared in horror. Neptune, the dragon god, the god race's great venerable, and the human race's supreme being couldn't help but change their expressions. He actually wanted to massacre the entire divine kingdom. Heavenly Lord Ji couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart as he transmitted a message. Stinking brat, is he serious? Probably. Qin Feiyang thought. Estimate? Heavenly Lord Ji's mouth twitched. Why did it sound so unreliable? Seeing that the 8 geniuses were about to lose their lives, Yu Lao glared at the young man and roared, I kneel. However, the young man did not stop. The giant sword formed by the origin energy slashed forward madly. Along with cries of agony, the 8 of them splashed blood all over the sky. Even their souls did not dare to run for their lives as they shivered in fear. It could be seen that they were terrified to the extreme. However, just as the souls of the 8 people were about to dissipate, the sword formed from the origin energy suddenly retreated and returned to the young man. I've already promised to kneel before you, why are you still doing this? Yu Lao roared. He had to kneel. He had to kneel. Because, if blood flowed like a river in the 4 continents because of him, he couldn't bear the responsibility when the emperor investigated. This is the price of hesitation. Now, not only do you have to kneel and kowtow 99 times, but you also have to say loudly every time you kowtow, Grandpa Qin Feiyang, I'm wrong. The young man was full of ridicule. Qin Feiyang was stunned. What was going on? Old Qin, congratulations, congratulations. You have a good grandson. Crazy laughed secretly. We have to congratulate ourselves too. White-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. What does it have to do with us? Crazy was puzzled. We're brothers with little Qin Z. Doesn't his grandson mean that he's our grandson? White-eyed wolf secretly gritted his teeth. Crazy was stunned for a moment, then he chuckled and said, that's right. Then congratulations to the 3 of us and an old grandson. Aren't you childish? Qin Feiyang was speechless. At the scene, there was another person who was also quite speechless. That person was Heavenly Lord Ji. If Yu Lao really became Qin Feiyang's grandson, what should he call him according to seniority? But the others. For example, Neptune, the dragon god and the 2 lords all glared at the young man angrily. Neptune and the dragon god didn't say anything. After all, there was a grudge between them. As for the 2 exalted, because they didn't know that the God King and the human clan's utmost exalted had formed an alliance with Qin Feiyang, they were still looking at Qin Feiyang with hatred. Besides, they were all people of the divine kingdom. They were bound together for good or ill. Humiliating Yu Lao was the same as humiliating them. I advise you to stop before going too far. The dragon god said gloomily. Are you teaching me how to behave? The young man slowly looked at the dragon god and asked. The dragon god's neck suddenly shrank and his body couldn't help but tremble. It was as if that look could destroy his divine soul. The young man looked at Yu Lao with disdain and shouted, hurry up. Yu Lao quivered, his legs unconsciously bent down and knelt in the Star River. As long as he knelt down, no matter what dignity or face, it was all gone. Only shame and shame were left in his heart. Qin Feiyang. Grandpa, grandson. I was wrong. Under everyone's watchful eyes. In the end, he slowly lowered his head, closed his eyes in pain and began to kowtow and apologize. The entire Star River was dead silent. Only Yu Lao's voice echoed in the void. For him, today's encounter would follow him for the rest of his life and could never be washed away. After a long time, 100 kowtows were finally over. Huh, the young man laughed out loud, unscrupulous, and then withdrew his origin power, opened a space-time tunnel and left without looking back. But that arrogant laughter filled the Star River and didn't dissipate for a long time. It's finally over. At this moment, watching the young man leave and disappear from their sight, whether it was the dragon god, Neptune, or the two sovereigns, they all felt a sense of relief. Although from the beginning of the battle until now, not even half an hour had passed, but in their eyes, it was as if several centuries had passed. It was simply torturous. Hey! There will be a good show to watch later. The madman suddenly laughed secretly. What? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at him suspiciously. The madman signaled the two to lower their heads. The two looked down and found that in the madman's hand, there was a sound transmission god stone. Obviously, this scene had been recorded. Damn! I actually didn't think of that. The white-eyed wolf was somewhat annoyed. Such a wonderful scene, how could it not be recorded? You're stupid. The madman smiled proudly. Pay attention to your face, you're about to reveal a flaw. Out of concern, Heavenly Lord Ji had been paying attention to Qin Feiyang and the other two. Seeing the white-eyed wolf and the madman's expressions become more and more exaggerated, he quickly reminded them. The two of them were startled and hurriedly looked around. Seeing that no one was paying attention to them, they let out a sigh of relief. They hurriedly put away the divine sound transmission stone, sorted out their emotions, and looked at Elder Yu, who was still kneeling in the galaxy. Little old man, this lesson is deep enough, let's see if you still dare to be arrogant in the future. Huh, how satisfying. After a moment of silence, Neptune and the dragon god looked at each other and slowly walked forward, looking at Yu Lao, who had his head buried in silence. They found that this old man was silently crying at this moment, tears flowing down his old face. Thinking about it, it made sense. After suffering such a great humiliation, even if he had an iron heart, he would definitely collapse. Yu Lao, get up, there are so many people watching. Neptune bent down and pulled Yu Lao's arm. Yu Lao turned a deaf ear. His face, which was buried in his hands, was almost twisted. This was hatred. Similarly, he didn't dare to look up now. Because as soon as he looked up, he would see people around him. He was afraid of seeing ridicule on everyone's faces. Let's go. And today's matter, don't spread it out. Heavenly Lord Ji turned around and looked at the sea race outside the entrance. Don't spread it out? Was that possible? There was a lack of everything in this world, but there was no lack of gossipers. The great venerable of the human race looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two and whispered, "You guys go too." Okay. The three nodded and bowed to Heavenly Lord Ji and the great venerable of the god race before turning around and leaving quickly. Brother, what's the situation up there? Is it over? How's Qin Badian? Because the sea race had blocked the entrance of the Star River before, the people of the other races couldn't get close, so when they saw someone coming down, they all swarmed up and kept asking questions. The young man in brocade, the young man in black, and the bearded man were also asking around curiously, but they suddenly noticed Qin Feiyang and the other two and immediately chased after them. Don't come over. Go wherever it's cool. The mad scientist noticed the three and immediately glared at them fiercely. Then, he opened a space-time tunnel and quickly left with Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. A trace of disappointment appeared on the faces of the three. It wasn't easy to meet a few law enforcers and they wanted to curry favor with them, but the other party didn't give them a chance at all. As expected. Soon, The video recorded by the mad scientist was spread across the 4 great continents, causing an unprecedented sensation. Every living being who saw this video felt waves of shock surge through their hearts. People from the Central Dynasty were forced to kneel and kowtow to Qin Batian. And they even called Qin Feiyang Grandpa. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, would they dare to believe this scene? My grandson is indeed powerful. The Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. In a secret chamber, the king who was rebuilding his body couldn't help but laugh when he received the news. Of course he was happy. Because he didn't know that this Qin Batian was fake and thought that it was really his grandson. The group of elders in the village were also very excited when they heard the news. Finally, someone has settled the score for us. Ji Laoshi laughed. Yes. This dog Yu Lao probably didn't expect that he would die in the hands of the descendants of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. We must celebrate. Laoshi, take out your best wine. Let's get drunk today. Ji Laoshi laughed heartily. Okay. Ji Laoshi nodded and waved his old hand, and dozens of jars of divine wine appeared. If the white-eyed wolf and the mad scientist were here, they would definitely drool. Because these divine wines were supreme-grade divine wines. And the black tortoise divine wine and the unparalleled divine wine were just ordinary divine wines. I'm sweating all over again while writing this. It's too uncomfortable. Brothers, be careful. Don't catch a cold during the changing of seasons. Chapter 4205. Black Tortoise World. Inside the tea garden. The frenzy and the white-eyed wolf were drinking the unparalleled divine brew and laughing loudly. Qin Feiyang was also drinking tea with a smile on his face. This time, Yu Lao was completely defeated by the young man, and his reputation was completely ruined. From now on, Yu Lao wouldn't dare to go out. Because he would be laughed at as soon as he went out. Although he didn't dare to laugh in front of others, there would definitely be a lot of gossip behind his back. Let's get down to business. Qin Feiyang took a sip of tea and looked at the two. Don't you feel that something is wrong with the appearance of the young man? Something is wrong? The two were stunned. Yes. I feel that he came out to help us. Qin Feiyang nodded. Help us. The two lowered their heads and pondered for a while. Suddenly, they seemed to have thought of something and looked up at Qin Feiyang. The Emperor's consciousness? Yes. The inner demons and big cousin both have the Emperor's consciousness in their bodies. What does this mean? It means that they have always been under the Emperor's surveillance. Maybe it's because of this reason that they don't dare to recognize us. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Makes sense. The two nodded. Let's put it another way. This time, the young man didn't challenge the inner demons and big cousin. He was waiting for an opportunity to kill the Emperor's two consciousnesses. As for forcing Yu Lao to kneel and kowtow, I think, this is just the young man finding a reason for himself to let the inner demons and big cousin go. Because he is now pretending to be Qin Batian. The inner demons and big cousin are now monsters of the Central Dynasty. If the young man doesn't kill them, it will definitely arouse the Emperor's suspicion. After all, this is such a good opportunity. If it was anyone else, they would directly eliminate the source of trouble. How could they let go of such terrifying monsters? Qin Feiyang analyzed. Makes sense. Madman and White-Eyed Wolf nodded again. Humiliating Yu Lao and forcing Yu Lao to kneel was tantamount to an excuse. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin could live on because Yu Lao had knelt down in exchange for his dignity. By then, the Emperor of the Central Divine Kingdom wouldn't think too much about it. You've really given it a lot of thought. Qin Feiyang sighed. Even though they still hadn't figured out the young man's identity, he was truly taking good care of them. Actually, what I don't understand the most is, how did he know the identities of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin? Furthermore, how did he know that the Emperor's consciousness was lurking within the inner demons and Lu Jiajin? It feels like he knows everything. Madman frowned. Indeed. And us. When we changed our faces previously, even people like Neptune and Dragon God couldn't recognize us, but he was able to see through our identities at a glance. This brother is suspecting that he has a pair of eyes of the Tao of Heaven and nothing in the world can hide from him. White-Eyed Wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and said, "Eyes of the Tao of Heaven?" The two froze and shook their heads with a bitter smile. Although it was a bit exaggerated, it was indeed suspicious. Let's not talk about him first. Anyway, as long as he's not hostile to us, it's fine. Now that the Emperor's consciousness has been obliterated by the young man, the inner demons and big cousin should be coming to us after rebuilding their bodies. So now, I can't wait. But before that, we still have one more thing to do. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. Kill the Dragon God? Madman and White-Eyed Wolf asked in unison. Sure enough, we're brothers. Qin Feiyang laughed. He didn't even need to say it, the two had already guessed it. This kind of tacit understanding wasn't something that could be cultivated easily. White-Eyed Wolf bared his teeth and said, "Not only do we have to kill the Dragon God, but we also have to kill the Beast Gods and Beast Lords of the Beast race. And the resources of the Beast race. Now that the Black Tortoise realm needs a lot of spirit veins and crystal veins to evolve, this is a good opportunity." Madman chuckled. He was simply the incarnation of a bandit. Then let's get ready to act. Qin Feiyang asked. If we don't act now, when should we? Madman twisted the wine jar and stood up with a hearty laugh. Inner demons and Lu Jiajin were severely injured by the young man, and the other 8 prodigies also had their bodies crushed by the young man. Now, only the Dragon God, Neptune, and Yu Lao were left in the East Continent. Neptune and Yu Lao were strong, but Madman and White-Eyed Wolf were more than enough to deal with them. As for the Dragon God, after obtaining Neptune's origin power, Qin Feiyang wasn't afraid at all. Therefore, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Don't think of the problem as too simple. At this moment, Long Qin walked out from the tea tree forest. Were you eavesdropping on our conversation? White-Eyed Wolf turned his head and looked with a trace of displeasure. Do I need to eavesdrop when you're speaking so loudly? Long Qin snorted coldly. White-Eyed Wolf still wanted to say something, but he suddenly remembered his promise with Long Qin to not quarrel in the future, so he lowered his head and drank his wine without saying anything. Long Qin was still a little unaccustomed to this attitude. The disappointment in his heart seemed to be stronger. Qin Feiyang looked at the two meaningfully and said with a smile, "What do you mean by that? Don't forget that the Protoss, the human race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race haven't fallen out with the Central Dynasty yet. Now that we're going to the East Continent to deal with the Dragon God, they definitely won't sit back and do nothing when they receive the news. Let's take a step back. Even if the monarch pretends not to know, Yu Lao and Neptune will definitely send them a message for help. If they receive the two's request for help, how can they not take action? So my suggestion is that before we kill our way to the East Continent, we should make arrangements for the 3 major races." Long Qin said. Then in your opinion, how should we arrange for the 3 major races? Madman was curious. Anyway, we have to help them create an excuse for not being able to support the beast race. You have a lot of bad ideas, take your time to think about it. Long Qin said, then sat aside and fell silent. If one looked carefully, his eyes would occasionally glance at White-Eyed Wolf. An excuse for not being able to support them, Qin Feiyang and Madman murmured as they pondered. If only the young man was here, he alone would be enough to restrain the 3 major races. White-Eyed Wolf muttered. This kind of thing, don't take it seriously. Madman shook his head. As long as the young man could help them at a critical moment, he would be satisfied. He didn't dare to ask for anything else. Why don't we wait for my brother and the demon ancestor to come out of seclusion? Longqin spoke again. As long as Longchen and the demon ancestor grasped the will of the heavenly Tao, they could restrain the three major races. No, no. By then, the inner demons and big cousin would have recovered their strength. If they still want to hide in the central dynasty, they will definitely attack us. With their strength, plus the dragon god and the others, it won't be easy to deal with them. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What are they trying to do by hiding in the central dynasty? Longqin was suspicious. You have to ask. Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf was about to retort Longqin. He wanted to say that he had to ask his father because this was arranged by him. But halfway through, he fell silent. Endure. Don't argue. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. Why was this wolf cub acting so strange today? He couldn't have been possessed, right? What are you looking at? The white-eyed wolf stared at the two. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. After thinking for a moment, he looked at Longqin and said, they probably want to be spies. When the time comes, we can attack the central dynasty from the inside. Longqin nodded. This was the only explanation that made sense. What's wrong with you guys today? Something doesn't seem right? Madman came to Longqin's side and asked in a low voice. Nothing. Longqin panicked and shook his head. Do you think I'm stupid? Nothing? It's so obvious. How can I not see it? Madman rolled his eyes. Then what does it have to do with you? Longqin looked at the madman seriously and said in a serious tone. Madman's face froze. He really couldn't refute this question. How about this? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang said with a flash of light in his eyes. The three immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, before going to the East Continent, let's go to Mount Supreme, the island of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. What are we going to do there? Madman was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, we'll seriously injure all the overlords of the three clans. This way, they won't be able to help, right? The white-eyed wolf paused and nodded. I think it's feasible. Well, Madman pondered for a moment and said, I'm afraid we have to inform the king and the others in advance. Otherwise, they will think that we are going to break the alliance. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and took out the divine sound transmission stone. But the next moment, he was stunned. What's wrong? The three looked at him suspiciously. Their contract bridge disappeared? Qin Feiyang frowned. What? The contract bridge disappeared? What's going on? The three of them were surprised. There were only two explanations for the disappearance of the contract bridge. First, the other party erased the contract bridge. Second, the other party unfortunately died. Just as the three of them were imagining things, Qin Feiyang slapped his head and smiled bitterly. They are fine. Don't scare yourself. The reason why the contract bridge disappeared should be because I crushed their physical bodies in the void. The divine sound transmission stone shattered along with their physical bodies. That's right. The three of them also suddenly understood. They were really scaring themselves. It seems that I have to go there personally. You guys adjust your state first. Qin Feiyang said and left the Black Tortoise realm alone. After all, the battle with the beast race was not a trivial matter. They had to be fully prepared. In the blink of an eye, night fell. Boom! Mount Supreme. Suddenly, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. A terrifying wave of air swept out in all directions like a tide. Those who heard the commotion ran to Mount Supreme to take a look. They found that Mount Supreme had been razed to the ground. The experts of Mount Supreme, including the 10 sovereigns, were all heavily injured and their bodies were destroyed. Who did this? Everyone was shocked to the extreme. Apart from that damned Qin Feiyang, who else could it be? The various venerables roared towards the sky, their anger overflowing to the heavens. This was not the first time this had happened. To Mount Supreme, this was a lifetime of humiliation. Chapter 4206. Before the first wave had subsided, another wave arose. Before the storm at Mount Supreme had subsided, another loud noise sounded from the mythical island. Half of the island was destroyed, and all the elites on the mythical mountain lost their bodies and combat power. In less than an hour, he destroyed Mount Supreme and the mythical island. What is this Qin Feiyang trying to do? Everyone was discussing. An ominous premonition arose in their hearts. Soon after, a terrifying wave of destruction also appeared at the purple-gold divine dragon race's ancestral land. Someone saw Heavenly Lord Ji and the other sovereigns joining forces to fight Qin Feiyang, but even so, they couldn't stop Qin Feiyang. Buzz! Dragon God Mountain. The Dragon God was meditating with his eyes closed. The voice transmission stone suddenly rang. The image of a red-haired old man appeared. It was the spy lurking in the purple-gold divine dragon race, Old Wu. What are you doing? Seeing that it was Old Wu, the dragon god's expression changed slightly. Don't panic. Now that Heavenly Lord Ji and the others are in danger, no one will notice that I sent you a message. Old Wu was very calm. He only had a few minor injuries on his body. In danger? The dragon god was stunned. You still don't know? The human race's Mount Supreme, the mythical island of the god race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race's ancestral land were all attacked by Qin Feiyang. Old Wu said. What? There's such a thing? The dragon god suddenly stood up and asked, when did this happen? Just now. This person is really ruthless. The elites of the 3 races were all seriously injured by him. Old Wu sighed. Why did he suddenly do this? Is he planning to officially declare war on us? The dragon god was surprised. I don't think so. Old Wu shook his head thoughtfully. What do you mean? The dragon god was puzzled. He had already attacked the 3 races' sacred lands and ancestral lands. Wasn't this an official declaration of war? If it was a declaration of war, Qin Feiyang would have taken the opportunity to completely annihilate the 3 major races. However, he has only seriously injured the experts of the 3 major races. Personally, I feel that he is planning a big conspiracy. Old Wu analyzed. Conspiracy, the dragon god muttered angrily, how long is this little bastard going to torment me? Don't be angry yet. I have a feeling that this has something to do with you. Old Wu frowned. Something to do with me? The dragon god could not help but shudder. Back then, you schemed against Qin Feiyang and Long Qin on Dragon God Mountain. Given Qin Feiyang's personality, he definitely won't let you off easily. In the past, he couldn't do anything to you because you had origin energy in your hands. However, it's different now. He also has a strand of origin energy in his hands. So, as long as he cuts off your path of retreat, wait. Speaking of which. Old Wu's eyes were filled with bewilderment as he muttered, retreat, could it be, what did you think of? The dragon god hurriedly asked. Old Wu looked up at the dragon god and said in a deep voice, if that's the case, then you have to run for your life. What the hell are you talking about? The dragon god was extremely anxious. Dong dong. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Old Wu was shocked. He turned his head to look at the closed door and asked, "Who is it?" "Old Wu, the patriarch asked me to invite you over," the person outside said. Old Wu frowned and asked suspiciously, "What's the matter, patriarch?" "Something big. Qin Feiyang has made his move again, and it's against the great ancestors," the person outside said. "What?" Old Wu's eyes trembled. The so-called great ancestors were Boss Ji and the others. It said that the great ancestors were also seriously injured. It was the origin energy that Qin Feiyang snatched from Neptune that injured them. The person outside said, his voice full of fear. Old Wu's face sank when he heard this. He said, "I'll be right there." "Okay." After the person outside left, Old Wu looked up at the dragon god and said in a deep voice, "You heard it too, there's definitely a conspiracy." "What conspiracy?" the dragon god said angrily. "If I'm not wrong, he's going to make a move on you." Brother Lu Yuntian was seriously injured by Qin Batian, and the great sea gods of the Sea clan were all crippled. Neptune's origin energy also fell into his hands, so now, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Qin Feiyang. But for you, it's a disaster. Because Qin Feiyang has already thought that your current support, apart from Neptune and Yu Lao, is only left with the three great clans, so as long as the powerhouses of the three great clans are all seriously injured, they won't be able to come and support you. Old Wu speculated with a solemn expression. Hearing this speculation, the dragon god's face couldn't help but turn pale. If that was really the case, then his situation was equivalent to being isolated and helpless. Whether Qin Feiyang has this plan or not, you have to quickly avoid it. I'll go find Heavenly Lord Ji first. After saying that, Old Wu turned off the voice transmission stone and strode away. It had to be said. This old man was indeed smart. He could speculate the plan of Qin Feiyang and the others. No wonder the king valued him so much in the past. Dragon God Mountain. The dragon god put away the voice transmission stone and was a little hesitant. Could it be that Old Wu was thinking too much? No. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to avoid it. Making a prompt decision, he turned around, walked to the door, and pushed it open. Just as he opened the door, his body suddenly stiffened. Under the hazy moonlight, under the stairs in front of the door, a black shadow was standing. It was only 2 to 3 meters away from the door. Silent, like a ghost, it could be said that it was close at hand. Qin. The dragon god suddenly trembled. That's right. This person was Qin Feiyang. Are you surprised? Qin Feiyang spoke, revealing his white teeth. You. The dragon god couldn't help but panic. He actually came to Dragon God Mountain. Qin Feiyang chuckled and said, "Actually, I'm also quite surprised that Old Wu of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan colluded with you." You heard it? The dragon god's pupils constricted. I'm standing right here, it's hard not to hear it. You're really something. Such a secret conversation, and you didn't even set up a soundproof barrier first. It doesn't matter if I hear it, but if it's accidentally heard by the king, what do you think the consequences will be? Qin Feiyang's face was full of ridicule. He had just arrived, so he only heard the latter part of the conversation. But it didn't matter. Because he already knew that Old Wu was a spy. You want to threaten me? The dragon god frowned. Threaten? Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said with a smile, "You think too much of me. With the current situation, do I still need to threaten you? Besides, a mere Old Wu doesn't have that much value to threaten you." Although Qin Feiyang's face was full of smiles, the dragon god's heart was getting more and more nervous. "Let's talk." Qin Feiyang smiled. Talk about what? The dragon god was always on guard against Qin Feiyang. follow me from now on. As long as you nod, you'll still be the high and mighty dragon god respected by the world. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The dragon god clenched his hands and asked in a low voice, "What if I say no? Then tonight will definitely be the day of your death." Qin Feiyang smiled in a carefree manner. But between the dragon god's brows, a trace of hostility immediately crept up. What does he think he is? A lamb waiting to be slaughtered? Little did he know that in Qin Feiyang's eyes, he was indeed a lamb waiting to be slaughtered at this moment. 3 breaths. I'll only give you 3 breaths to consider. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and raised 3 fingers. 1. As his voice fell, the first finger contracted. 2. The second finger also contracted. 3. As soon as this word was blurted out, the dragon god suddenly exploded, and the power of origin appeared, turning into a 3-foot-long sword and slashing at Qin Feiyang. It seems that this is your choice. Qin Feiyang's eyes also instantly turned cold, and he said word by word, "After tonight, there will be no dragon god in the divine kingdom." Clang! Accompanied by a loud noise, the power of origin hidden in his body also rushed out like lightning, turning into a 3-meter-long spear. Divine light illuminated heaven and earth, and fiercely collided with the long sword. Boom! A loud noise resounded in the sky above the Dragon God Mountain, shocking the entire East Continent. At the same time, a terrifying shockwave from the battle spread out in all directions like an invisible wave with the two of them as the center. Mountains suddenly began to collapse, and dust and smoke billowed. The battle immediately began. "You little bastard, are you qualified to make me submit? What did you say? After tonight, there will be no dragon god in the divine kingdom. Who gave you the courage?" The dragon god roared angrily. Grabbing the long sword, he madly slashed at Qin Feiyang, as if he had lost his mind. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything, and his eyes were extremely sharp. Holding the long spear in his hand, he kept colliding with the dragon god, until the sky fell and the earth cracked. The two powers of origin were the same, so they were also evenly matched. However, the entire East Continent was boiling at this moment. It's Qin Feiyang's aura. He actually killed his way to the Dragon God Mountain again. Bastard, do you not take us seriously? Quickly inform all the beast venerables to go to the Dragon God Mountain immediately. These were the voices of the various beast gods. At the same time, Sea God Island. A golden figure rushed into the sky and stood above the island, looking in the direction of the Dragon God Mountain. It was Neptune. The confrontation of the powers of origin was so terrifying that the entire East Continent could clearly feel it. Qin Feiyang. Neptune clenched his hands tightly, and his eyes were full of resentment. Whoosh! Another old figure rushed into the sky. Who else could it be but Yu Lao? At this moment, he stared at the Dragon God Mountain, his face full of resentment. Qin Feiyang was the descendant of Qin Batian, so the humiliation and resentment he suffered during the day in the galaxy were now transferred to Qin Feiyang. Immediately contact the 3 major clans and ask them to come to support. His eyes flashed. After speaking to Neptune, he opened a space-time passage and walked in without looking back. Wait! Neptune hurriedly said, but Yu Lao turned a deaf ear and quickly disappeared. He originally wanted to say that the experts of the 3 major clans had been seriously injured by Qin Feiyang. In other words, they had no support now. But he didn't expect that Yu Lao was so resentful at this moment that he didn't want to hear it at all. As for Yu Lao, since the battle in the galaxy, he had locked himself in a hall for the whole day. Neptune didn't dare to disturb him and wanted to wait for him to calm down before reporting. Therefore, Yu Lao still didn't know the situation of the 3 major clans. What should I do? Neptune struggled in his heart. In the end, he gritted his teeth and chose to rush into the space-time passage. Chapter 4207. Dragon God Mountain. The 19 beast gods were the first to arrive. Although they did not have the Eye of Life, they had the time array and life law, so it did not take long for them to reconstruct their bodies. After reconstructing their bodies, they returned to their respective lairs. It could also be considered as bait set by the dragon god, to see if Qin Feiyang would hunt them down. But they did not expect that Qin Feiyang would actually come directly to Dragon God Mountain. The beast gods also hated Qin Feiyang to the core. However, when they rushed here, they found that they could not get close to the battlefield at all. Because the battle fluctuations of the origin force were too strong, they could not withstand it. Countless beast venerables of the beast race were also rushing over. They gathered behind the beast gods, densely packed like a beast tide. If it were anyone else, seeing such a lineup, they would have been scared out of their wits. But the funny thing was, a few beast venerables actually opened a space-time passage and directly descended above Dragon God Mountain. Wasn't this courting death? There was no suspense. These beast venerables that directly descended above Dragon God Mountain were killed by the battle fluctuations before they could react, not even leaving a hair behind. And Dragon God Mountain had long been reduced to ashes. High up in the sky, the dragon god was already in a frenzy. The long sword in his hand burst out with dazzling divine light, and the sharpness covered the sky and earth. On the other hand, Qin Feiyang. He was calm and at ease. Swish! In the distance, two figures walked out of the space-time passage. It was Neptune and Old Wu. Looking at Qin Feiyang on the battlefield, killing intent surged in their eyes. Yu Lao shouted, "Beast gods of the beast race, listen to my order, immediately activate the ultimate meaning with me and kill Qin Feiyang." Yu Lao. Neptune. The beast gods were shocked, as if they had found their backbone. Boom! Terrifying auras immediately erupted from all directions. The next moment, one after another, ultimate intents appeared out of nowhere. Almost all of them were ultimate profundities of supreme laws. Even for sovereign beasts, each of them had mastered one or two ultimate ultimacies of ultimate laws. Some sovereign beasts had even mastered 3 or 4 ultimate ultimacies of ultimate laws. How terrifying was this? However, Qin Feiyang's expression did not change. He looked at Yu Lao and Neptune. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he took a step back. "Where are you going?" the dragon god roared. He naively thought that Qin Feiyang was going to retreat. Qin Feiyang ignored him. With a wave of his hand, the madman, white-eyed wolf, and Long Qin appeared. He smiled faintly and said, "I'll leave Yu Lao and Neptune to you." "No problem." The white-eyed wolf bared its fangs and turned around to attack Yu Lao and Neptune. Madman chuckled and immediately charged over. "I don't want to be with them." Long Qin coldly snorted. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly and activated his 3,000 incarnations. He looked at Long Qin and said, "Then lead 3,000 incarnations to kill those beast gods and sovereign beasts." "That's more like it." Long Qin looked at the beast gods and sovereign beasts in the distance. His eyes surged with coldness as he stepped into the air and his 3,000 incarnations followed closely behind. "Be careful," Qin Feiyang warned. "You should worry about yourself." Long Qin smiled without turning his head. His tone was full of confidence. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. At this moment, the dragon god wielded his long sword and slashed furiously. "You think I'll run? Don't be naive." Qin Feiyang's eyes became as sharp as a blade once again. He waved the spear in his hand and blocked the dragon god's long sword. Kill. On the other side. The 3,000 incarnations roared. The ultimate profundities of the 6 ultimate laws of life and death were activated one after another. Their divine aura destroyed all directions. This was an army of tigers and wolves. The beast gods and sovereign beasts were scared out of their wits. Tianpeng was naturally not there. Its current strength was not even comparable to the weakest sovereign beast. But the remaining 19 beast gods were extremely powerful, and each of them had grasped the will of heavenly Tao. However, they were now facing Qin Feiyang's 3,000 incarnations. The ultimate profundities of the laws of life and death were not something they could contend against. Even the 2 wills of the heavenly Tao were not something they could contend against. More than a dozen incarnations stayed behind to deal with the 19 beast gods. The rest of the incarnations charged toward the sovereign beasts. Even the beast gods could not stop 3,000 incarnations, let alone these sovereign beasts. This was a one-sided massacre. All of you, die for this princess. Long Qin seemed to be venting something. He specifically targeted the weaker sovereign beasts. His ultimate profundities of the ultimate laws could kill a large number of them. It was simply brutal to the extreme. Whether it was the sovereign beasts that were there before or those that came later, they were all scared out of their wits and frantically fled for their lives. Accompanied by a merciless massacre, in less than a minute. There were corpses everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. On the other side of the battlefield, the frenzy was fighting against Yu Lao, and the white-eyed wolf was fighting against Neptune. However, it was different from the battle at Long Qin's side. On this battlefield, the madman and the ingrate were being suppressed by the Sea King. Their bodies were even riddled with wounds and blood was flowing out. Bang! Yu Lao and Neptune looked at each other and attacked with all their might. The frenzy and the white-eyed wolf spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed into the ground below like meteorites. Golden blood? Looking at the blood that the white-eyed wolf spat out, Yu Lao and the frenzy were rather shocked. What kind of bloodline power was this? However, no matter what bloodline power it was just an ant. I'll send you to hell now. The 2 of them sneered. The frenzy and the golden-winged wolf king were Qin Feiyang's best brothers. If they killed them, Qin Feiyang would definitely be in so much pain that he would wish he was dead. All the ultimate profound meanings were activated, and with monstrous killing intent, they charged toward the 2 of them. The frenzy and the white-eyed wolf got up and wiped the blood from the corners of their mouths. There was no worry on their faces. Instead, they were full of ridicule. The white-eyed wolf bared its teeth. It seems that they have been blinded by the joy of victory and have forgotten that you still have the power of all evil. There's no other way. They have been beaten by us like dogs all day long. Now that they can kill us, they naturally can't control themselves. The frenzy chuckled. Then let them have a taste of despair? The white-eyed wolf asked. Hey! The frenzy grinned and blood flowed out from the gaps of his teeth. His eyes quickly turned blood red, as if a devil was awakening. Swish! All of a sudden, he raised his head to look at the 2 of them. The moment he raised his head, his eyes turned completely blood red. From those eyes, it was as if one could see a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The next moment, his body swelled up with the wind. In an instant, the frenzy turned into a 10,000 feet tall giant. Accompanied by a bloody light, the seal of all evil appeared between his eyebrows. This is, Neptune's face changed and shouted, this seems to be the seal of all evil that the monarch and the others were talking about. Yu Lao, be careful. Hee, the real battle has only just begun. Despair for this daddy. The frenzy laughed wildly. His entire body emitted a fierce and evil aura. Boom! The 6 ultimate profundities of the 6 supreme laws manifested. The power of the will of heaven and the seal of all evil erupted at the same time. Under the double support, the 6 ultimate profound meanings erupted with the power to destroy the world, shattering the void and colliding with the 2 ultimate profound meanings of Yu Lao. One must know. Neptune grasped the 7 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest laws. Yu Lao grasped the 8 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest laws. However, even so, these 15 ultimate profound meanings were unable to block the frenzy's 6 ultimate profound meanings. With a loud bang, it shattered on the spot. Yu Lao and Neptune both spat out a mouthful of blood, their faces turning pale. So strong? Their eyes trembled. It was almost on par with the Divine King's God race mark. What kind of monsters are these? Especially Yu Lao. In the past, he only cared about Qin Feiyang. But he didn't expect that another Qin Batian, who was even more terrifying than Qin Feiyang, would jump out. All right. So be it if there are 2. But now, another lunatic actually came out and grasped such terrifying power. Among these people, is there no one ordinary? Roar. It was also at this moment. Accompanied by a deafening beast roar. A golden light broke through the darkness and went straight into the sky. Accompanying it was a peerlessly terrifying pressure. This was a beast's aura. As if the king of all beasts between heaven and earth was born, whether it was Yu Lao or Neptune, they couldn't help but feel an uncontrollable fear in their hearts. The 2 hurriedly looked over. They saw a golden beast shadow between heaven and earth. And the person below the golden beast shadow was the white-eyed wolf. Deprive. As soon as the white-eyed wolf opened its mouth, a gust of wind suddenly blew, and an obscure aura rushed toward Yu Lao and Neptune. The 2 immediately felt their cultivation leaving their body uncontrollably. Deprive cultivation, the 2 murmured and were once again deeply shocked. There was no need to think too much, these people were a group of monsters. Although the white-eyed wolf's battle soul didn't deprive cultivation fast, if one really wanted to compare, it could be said that its lethality was greater than the strongest battle soul. To be exact, it was more terrifying than the strongest battle soul. Because at this level, no one was willing to have their cultivation taken away, and no one was willing to have their law profound taken away. Moreover, the white-eyed wolf's battle soul didn't only deprive a cultivation realm or a law. Instead, it deprived you of all your cultivation, all your law, and made you completely immortal. Just imagine. Who would be willing to lose the cultivation that they had painstakingly cultivated and the law that they had painstakingly comprehended? If they really lost it, it would be more painful than death. No. In the face of such a situation, no matter how determined one was, they would collapse and die. So. Now, in Yu Lao's heart, there was one more name of a strong enemy. Whether it was Qin Feiyang, Qin Batian, the lunatic, or the golden-winged wolf king, they all had to die. Otherwise, the divine kingdom would sooner or later be destroyed in the hands of these people. Chapter 4208. Did you see that? They already have killing intent towards us. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. The killing intent of the 2 was too strong. It was hard not to notice it. How should I put it? The madman pondered for a moment and laughed. We should feel honored. After all, they only have killing intent towards us because they think highly of us. Huh. The white-eyed wolf laughed. Elder Yu and the Sea King heard the conversation between the 2 without missing a single word, and the space between their brows immediately became filled with hostility. This was a battle, not a joke. How could he still be in the mood to mock them in such an eccentric manner? Today, all of you will die. Yu Lao spoke as if he was the king of hell giving his judgment. If it was anyone else, just these words would be enough to scare them to death. But the madman and white-eyed wolf didn't take it seriously. Many people have said these words to this daddy before, but in the end, they were all trampled under this daddy's feet and trembled in fear. Not to mention you two old men. The madman sneered. His 6 ultimate intents were filled with boundless divine light as they charged at the two. Vast and mighty divine might shook the entire world. Don't be too arrogant. Sky extinction sword. Neptune roared. With a clang, 10,000 strands of sword chi erupted. A blood-red longsword shot out from his body, its sharpness tearing through the sky as it slashed towards the 6 ultimate mysteries. High-class sovereign weapon. The madman muttered, his eyes flashing. Boom! Clang! The next moment the two collided. A high-class sovereign weapon was indeed extraordinary. Even with the support of the heavenly Tao and the power of 10,000 evil, the 6 ultimate intents couldn't resist and instantly collapsed. Do you think you are Qin Feiyang? Without 3,000 incarnations, what can you use to fight against a high-class sovereign weapon? Neptune's eyes were filled with contempt. The sky extinction sword fell, its sharpness toppling mountains and overturning seas. Even the madman and the white-eyed wolf didn't dare to take it head-on and decisively chose to retreat. Boom! The Tianju sword slammed into the ground. Instantly, a scene of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking appeared. The abyss fissures quickly spread in all directions with loud cracking sounds. Several streaks of sword chi hit the madman and the white-eyed wolf. Both of them were instantly drenched in blood from head to toe. Their wounds were so deep that their bones could be seen. How terrifying! Madman broke out in cold sweat. As expected, only the 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King's true body could contend against a high-grade sovereign weapon. Now you know who the real ants are. Die! Neptune laughed and swooped down. At the same time, he waved his hand and the Tianju sword flew in front of him. He grabbed the Tianju sword and charged towards the frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf. Without Qin Feiyang, no matter how powerful you are, you will only be a stray dog in front of us. High in the sky. Yu Lao also sneered. Clang! As his voice fell, a blood-red light surged out. In the next instant, a blood-red halberd appeared as if a peerless demonic creature had been born. There were even drops of demonic blood dripping from the blade. The moment this weapon appeared, the entire world was filled with blood clouds. The smell of blood enveloped the entire area. God-slaying halberd. This was also a high-grade sovereign weapon. Yu Lao grabbed the god-slaying halberd and spun in the air. His head was facing down and his feet were facing up. The god-slaying halberd in his hand emitted an aura of destruction. It was as if it could pierce through heaven and earth as it charged towards the frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf. 2 high-grade sovereign weapons. The frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf were excited. That's right. They were excited. Shouldn't they be afraid in this situation? After all, it was 2 high-grade sovereign weapons. Were they crazy? Of course not. Although the Black Tortoise world had many sovereign weapons, the strongest were the Inferno Magic Sword, Ancient Castle, Angel Sword, and Sky God Sword. However, these 4 divine weapons were merely mid-level Dominator weapons. They didn't have a single high-grade sovereign weapon. The most important thing was, they didn't have powerful means like the 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King true body. If they did, it didn't matter if they didn't have a sovereign weapon. For example, the current Qin Feiyang. A sovereign weapon was just a joke in front of him. But they were different. Without the 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King true body, they had to find ways to increase their combat strength in other aspects. Other aspects, a sovereign weapon was undoubtedly the best choice. As long as they could obtain a high-grade sovereign weapon, as long as they didn't encounter the 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King true body, they could be considered invincible. So, in the eyes of the frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf, this Tianju sword and the god-slaying halberd were tailor-made for them. Die. Go to hell and repent. In your next life, open your eyes and see who you can provoke and who you can't. However, Neptune and Yulao didn't realize that they had been targeted by the white-eyed wolf. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. There were also smiles of victory. It's too early to be proud. The frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other and sneered at the same time. The two were surprised. They dared to laugh at them now. Where did their confidence come from? But soon, they found out the source of their confidence. Whoosh! More than 1,000 figures streaked across the sky like lightning and rushed toward them. Above each person's head, there were 7 ultimate profound meanings. That's right. They were Qin Feiyang's 3,000 incarnations. Although only half of the 3,000 incarnations came, the ultimate profound meanings of the law of life and death, the 6 ultimate laws, and the terrifying will of heaven made Yulao and the frenzied one tremble uncontrollably. Kill! As the 1,000 clones roared, thousands of ultimate intents turned into a torrent that charged at the two of them. Yulao and the frenzied one's expression changed. The Tianju sword and the god-slaying halberd left their hands and exploded with monstrous power. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a loud sound, the 2 high-grade sovereign weapons shattered on the spot. So what if they had high-grade sovereign weapons? Against 3,000 incarnations, they didn't have the power to fight back. They were worse than ants. The frenzied one roared, "Don't destroy them. Leave them for us." The 1,000 incarnations were stunned. The ultimate profound meanings in the sky scattered and turned into pure law energy that suppressed the 2 sovereign weapons. Why? Why? Yulao roared. I told you that you were naive, but you didn't believe me. The white-eyed wolf sneered. Yulao gloomily looked at the white-eyed wolf. We didn't know. But we investigated Neptune a long time ago. He has a high-grade sovereign weapon. So before the battle started, we had already planned it out. The frenzied one and I will stall you while the 3,000 incarnations deal with the beast god and sovereign beast. This way, when you show them your high-grade sovereign weapons, they will be able to send a portion of their incarnations to help us. The white-eyed wolf bared his fangs, his face full of mockery. Neptune said in a low voice, "So you didn't activate the seal of all evil and battle soul at the beginning because you wanted to stall for time? You're smart. That's right. If we had activated the seal of all evil and battle soul at the beginning, you would have taken out your sovereign weapons without hesitation. Simply put, we were pretending to be weak so that you would have the misconception that you could kill us without using your sovereign weapons. You didn't let us down. You were so proud to see us being suppressed." The white-eyed wolf sneered at Neptune. Neptune's eyes trembled as he looked at the battlefield in the distance. As expected, the beast race's divine beasts were all lying on the ground, their bodies covered in blood. As for the sovereign beasts, there were countless casualties. The ground was already covered in rivers of blood. Although there were many sovereign beasts left, facing Longqin and the remaining 1,000 incarnations, there was no way they could fight back. They could only be slaughtered. It could be said that. Now it could be declared that the beast race was completely finished. At the same time, Yulao's eyes were also trembling. He never thought that he had fallen into the trap of the two from the beginning. At this moment, he finally realized that among this group of people, Qin Feiyang was not the only terrifying one. The others were also existences that made one despair. Gradually. He laughed bitterly. He really did not expect that after roaming the world for countless years, he would fall into the hands of a few young juniors. Ridiculous. Sad. Lamentable. Let's go to hell together. Suddenly. With a roar, a destructive aura rushed out of his body. Self-explosion. Yu Lao. Neptune's face also changed. However, Yu Lao turned a deaf ear. His old face looked extremely ferocious. Self-explosion? Do you think it's possible? The lunatic smiled contemptuously. Activating instant time, his 10,000 feet body instantly landed in front of Yu Lao. Without a high-level sovereign weapon, even if Yu Lao had 8 ultimate mysteries, he was no longer his opponent. He punched out. The power of all evil roared out like a blood-colored wave. One must know. The power of all evil was able to fight against a sovereign weapon. Ah! A scream rang out. Yu Lao's body shattered on the spot. Blood dyed the sky red. Following closely. That mountain-like giant hand grabbed old Yu's divine soul with a single move. Let me go. Yu Lao roared and struggled frantically. But with his current divine soul, he was unable to shake the lunatic's giant hand. The lunatic only used a little force and Yu Lao's divine soul was shattered by more than half. Neptune, quickly self-destruct. Perish together with them. Yu Lao was very unwilling. But hearing these words, Neptune's eyes trembled. He raised his head and looked at the lunatic's 10,000 feet body. His face was full of fear. You self-destruct, let me see. The lunatic also looked at Neptune. Neptune quivered and turned to flee. This was simply a demon king. Did you see that? This is the person your central dynasty trained. You don't even have the courage to self-destruct. The lunatic smiled playfully. Another giant hand was raised. It was enough to cover the sky and the sun as it slapped towards Neptune. No, Neptune raised his head and looked at the giant hand. At this moment, in his eyes, it was like a giant hand from the heavens, suppressing him. He couldn't help but wail in despair. The next moment, accompanied by a scream, Neptune's body shattered on the spot. His divine soul was also grabbed by the lunatic. He screamed in horror. The two giants were captured by the lunatic just like that. Seeing this scene, the beast sovereigns in the distance who still had hope couldn't help but despair to the extreme. They all turned around and fled in horror. Neptune and Yu Lao were captured, the two superior sovereign weapons were trapped, the 19 beast gods were all seriously injured, and the dragon god couldn't even take care of itself. Could these beast sovereigns turn the situation around? Chapter 4209. Kill. Don't leave a single one alive, kill them all. Longqin shouted coldly as he led more than 1,000 avatars in a mad chase. Everywhere they went, blood dyed the mountains and rivers red. Screams and wails could be heard endlessly. Did this woman take medicine today? White-eyed Wolf muttered. You don't know if she took medicine or not. Frenzy glanced at White-eyed Wolf. This matter must be related to White-eyed Wolf. What do I know? Don't talk nonsense if you don't know. White-eyed Wolf glared at him fiercely. If it was before, he wouldn't deny it. But now. They hadn't even exchanged a few words, how could it be related to him? Frenzy chuckled and didn't pursue this issue further. He turned his head to look at the two high-grade sovereign weapons that were suppressed by the 1,000 avatars. Seeing this, White-eyed Wolf also hurriedly looked over, his eyes emitting a green light. Boom! However, at this moment, within the Star River, an earth-shattering explosion occurred. That's right. Qin Feiyang and the Dragon God had already charged into the Star River. Frenzy and White-eyed Wolf looked at each other and rushed into the clouds like lightning, sweeping into the Star River. The two's origin forces collided like meteorites, erupting with an unprecedented terrifying aura. Frenzy and White-Eyed Wolf saw this scene and immediately retreated from the Star River. Because the fluctuations were simply too terrifying. Even they could feel the threat of death. At the same time they retreated from the Star River, accompanied by a loud cracking sound, the two origin forces shattered in the sky. Five-colored divine light illuminated the world. This origin force is indeed powerful. Frenzy muttered. Not only the Star River, even the sky outside collapsed. It was like the scene of the end of the world, shocking the world. But immediately after, Frenzy and White-Eyed Wolf revealed a trace of a smile in their eyes. Because after the two origin forces collided, they both dissipated into nothingness. In other words, in the end, the two origin powers ended up in mutual destruction. The disappearance of the origin force was equivalent to losing a protective talisman for the dragon god. But Qin Feiyang was different. With the law of life and death and two will of the heavenly Tao, he completely had the capital to crush the dragon god. The outcome was decided. In the collapsing Star River, Qin Feiyang and Dragon God stood in the air. Compared to the calm and composed Qin Feiyang, the dragon was in a sorry state. The dragon god was also very well. What did the disappearance of the origin force's origin force? Therefore, when he came back to his senses, he hurriedly rushed towards the entrance of the Milky Way. Where? But then, Frenzy and the White-Eyed Wolf's the dragon god was stunned. Why are Madman and the Golden-Winged Wolf King here? Could it, Elder Yu, the Sea King, the Beast Gods, and the Sovereign Beasts were all wiped out? Your only choice now is to go all out and defeat Old Qin. Because only in this way can you have a way to survive. Frenzy laughed. The dragon god looked at the two of them, then turned to look at Qin Feiyang, who was walking towards him step by step. A look of fear slowly crept onto his face. Come on. You can't escape. Qin Feiyang said. The law of life and death and the six ultimate mysteries continued to appear in the sky. The will of the heavenly Tao was like a tide, rolling in all directions. I surrender. Looking at this scene, the dragon god finally slowly knelt on the ground and smiled bitterly. Not to mention the law of life and death, just the will of the heavenly Tao was enough to kill him. Even if he had the ability to resist the law of life and death, the other party still had the eye of heaven. There was no way to survive. Kneeling just like that? Hey, you're the dragon god after all. Can you not be so shameless? Frenzy quickly shouted. Dignity? Hearing this, the dragon god clenched his fists and roared in his heart. Who doesn't want dignity? But now, does he still have a choice? Even if he could defeat Qin Feiyang, there was still Frenzy and the Golden-Winged Wolf King. It would have been better if you had surrendered earlier. That way, you wouldn't have wasted two origin forces for nothing. Qin Feiyang shook his head. It was a pity. If the dragon god was willing to surrender earlier, he would have two origin forces in his hands. Not to mention the central dynasty, at least in the four great continents, no one could shake him. I'm sorry, I was stubborn before, give me a chance. The dragon god quickly looked at Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of pleading. Because he could feel a strong killing intent in Qin Feiyang's words. I'm sorry. I don't care if you surrender now. Qin Feiyang shook his head. With a wave of his hand, the seven ultimate mysteries instantly carried an aura of destruction as they charged at the dragon god. Yes. If he had surrendered earlier, he could still accept it. But now, the origin forces had dissipated and the battle was nearing its end. The dragon god's surrender had lost its meaning. Do you really want to force me to die together with you? The dragon god roared. His eyes were blood red. Roar. The next moment, his whole body released a divine light, and a 10,000 feet long divine dragon appeared. It was the dragon god's original body, the holy dragon. Clang! Moreover, a dazzling divine pagoda rushed out of his body. High-level dominator divine weapon, Star Tower. Boom! Star Tower shook the sky and charged at the 7 ultimate mysteries. The 7 ultimate mysteries were immediately shattered in the starry sky. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth. He touched the corner of his mouth and looked at the blood on his hand. His eyes were cold as he stared at the dragon god and said, "It seems that you really don't know how to write the word death." Just a glance was enough to make the dragon god feel a chill in his heart. Kiki, accompanied by a sinister laugh, the madman and the white-eyed wolf also stepped into the starry sky, their killing intent overflowing. The dragon god looked at the two of them, then looked at Qin Feiyang, his trembling heart unable to calm down. Any one of these 3 people was a master that could make people tremble in fear. But now, all of them were here. He really didn't know whether to say that it was his honor or his bad luck. No. There is still a chance. Qin Feiyang's 3,000 incarnations are not here. Suddenly, the dragon god quivered, his face suddenly filled with a sinister look, and laughed, "All of you, go to hell." Star Tower erupted with a shocking power. Like a tsunami in the ocean, it swept in all directions. Still so naive. Qin Feiyang shook his head. With a thought, the more than 1,000 incarnations that were chasing after the venerable beast with Long Qin dissipated in the void, leaving only a few hundred incarnations. This sudden turn of events caused Long Qin to be slightly stunned. But soon, she understood, looked up at the sky, and continued to slaughter the beast race. At the same time, Star River. Behind Qin Feiyang, incarnations also appeared out of thin air. A total of 1,000. In fact, there was no need to use so many. But it didn't matter. Anyway, the beast race was now an arrow at the end of its flight. A few hundred incarnations, together with Long Qin, were enough to raise the beast race to the ground. This, the dragon god was immediately dumbfounded. Despair, like a tide, once again drowned him. All thoughts were gone. It could be said that all hope was lost. Are you going to take the initiative to give up, or should we make a move? The madman's face was full of ridicule. Give up, the dragon god murmured and suddenly roared, impossible. Boom! Star Tower attacked. At the same time, a destructive aura rushed out of his body. He also chose to self-destruct. Sigh. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 sighed at the same time, including the 3,000 incarnations. The ultimate meaning appeared in an instant, overwhelming the dragon god and Star Tower. Crack. Accompanied by a loud noise, Star Tower shattered on the spot, followed by a scream, and the dragon god's blood splattered on the spot. However, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 did not erase the dragon god's divine soul. Because the ultimate meaning mastered by the dragon god could not be wasted. Star Tower was also suppressed by them. The battle was finally over. Let's go. Qin Feiyang glanced at the shattered Star River, took a deep breath, and looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf with a smile. Hee hee. The 2 bared their teeth. Immediately, the 3 took the dragon god's divine soul and the broken Star Tower and left the Star River. Below, 1,000 incarnations were still suppressing the Sky Extinction Sword and the God-slaying halberd. Not bad. Obtained 3 high-grade Dominator weapons. Qin Feiyang laughed. This was also an unexpected gain. Don't be happy too early, they haven't been subdued yet. The madman's eyes flashed coldly. High-grade Dominator weapons were not so easy to subdue. No rush. This brother has plenty of means to torture them. The white-eyed wolf laughed. The three Dominator weapon spirits couldn't help but tremble when they heard this. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and glanced at the surrounding land. At this moment, this land could only be described as corpses everywhere and blood flowing like a river. They actually didn't escape. The madman looked at the group of beast gods. You think they will be so obedient? They have long wanted to escape. But seeing us here, they didn't have the guts. One of the incarnations sneered. The white-eyed wolf nodded, the corner of his mouth raised slightly, looked at the 19 beast gods, and said, "You guys go." What? The 19 beast gods looked at each other. What did he mean? Would the golden-winged wolf king be so kind? Go, go. Leave some seeds for your beast race. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand impatiently. Hearing this, the group of beast gods looked at each other, then suddenly turned around and fled in panic. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. He activated instant time and chased after them, attacking repeatedly. Every time he attacked, a beast god's body would be shattered, and blood would dye the sky. He said angrily, "You guys ran when I told you to? Why didn't I see you guys so obedient before?" The group of beast gods' divine souls huddled together, trembling. I knew he wouldn't be so kind. All of you, lie down. If you dare to move, this brother will destroy both your body and soul. The white-eyed wolf coldly snorted and looked into the distance. This woman still hadn't returned. Was she planning to slaughter the entire beast race? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. This woman was indeed savage. The madman's body had also returned to normal. Yulao and Neptune's divine souls were also suppressed together with the dragon god's divine soul. He lowered his head and pondered for a while, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Why don't we use this opportunity to wipe out the oceanic race in one fell swoop? No, I beg you, leave a way out for the oceanic race." When the Sea King heard this, he hurriedly pleaded. "Why didn't you leave a way out for us when you were dealing with us?" The madman sneered and continued to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and nodded. "Okay, you guys take 1,000 avatars with you, but leave the oceanic race that grasps ultimate power alive. Also, bring back the resources of the oceanic race." "Okay." The madman chuckled and looked up at the white-eyed wolf. "Brother Wolf, let's go." The white-eyed wolf also bared his teeth. After handing the divine souls of the 19 beast gods to Qin Feiyang, he followed the madman and opened a space-time portal, leading 1,000 avatars to kill the oceanic race. Chapter 42:10. I beg you, don't do this, I'll do anything for you. Neptune was desperate to the extreme. They could only watch as the madman and the others went to the oceanic race. If you had said so earlier, I might have considered it. Qin Feiyang glanced at Neptune indifferently. "You're a devil." Neptune roared. Qin Feiyang couldn't be bothered with him anymore. He looked at the remaining 3,000 incarnations and said, "Go to the Black Tortoise realm and keep an eye on them. Don't let them find a chance. With us around, will they have a chance?" All the incarnations showed a proud and arrogant attitude. Qin Feiyang smiled. With a wave of his hand, the remaining incarnations, the three sovereign divine weapons, Neptune, Yulao, the dragon god, and the souls of the 19 beast gods disappeared without a trace. Immediately after, he released his divine will, which surged in all directions. In the end, they all sank into the ground. Immediately, he frowned. The underground of the Dragon God Mountain had been severely damaged. He couldn't find a single spirit vein or crystal vein. Even if there was, it was incomplete. If I had known, I would have gone to the Star River from the beginning. Qin Feiyang was helpless. Obviously, because the battle fluctuations were too terrifying, even the spirit vein and crystal vein underground were not spared. However, he wasn't discouraged. The Dragon God Mountain area was because it was in the center of the battlefield. There must be a large number of spirit veins and crystal veins in other places. So, he began to rush in the northwest direction. His divine will had been covering the earth. Sure enough. Soon, he found a lot of spirit veins and crystal veins underground and sent them all to the Black Tortoise realm. The battle was so fierce. The West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent had already received the news. Some bold people even sneaked over to check. They didn't know if they didn't see, but they were shocked when they saw it. The East Continent was no longer the same as before. The mountains and rivers were broken, and blood was everywhere. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was a purgatory. Many beasts even fled to the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent when they learned that Long Qin was still wantonly slaughtering. For a moment, the people of the three continents were in a state of panic and chaos. Another shocking news. What news? Could it be that the beast race has been exterminated? No, no, no. The beast race hasn't been exterminated yet. However, we're not far from it. What I'm going to tell you now is about the oceanic race. I heard that the mad scientist and the golden-winged wolf king led Qin Feiyang's 1,000 avatars to attack the sea race. What? They won't even spare the Oceanids? Absolutely. The divine sea island has already fallen. The sea folk on the other islands are also running for their lives. Many members of the Sea tribe have fled to the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent. These ferocious guys are going to flatten the entire East Continent. Not to mention the commoners, even the monarch and the others were shocked and they received the news. One was Qin Feiyang, one was Long Qin, one was the madman, and one was the golden-winged wolf king. These four people had actually flattened the oceanic race and the beast race. If it hadn't happened in the divine kingdom, no one would have believed it. However, compared to the monarch, the divine king, Zhizun, heavenly lord Ji, and the others from the three major races were terrified. Because they were all thinking, after the oceanic race and the beast race were eliminated and the entire East Continent was flattened, would these people come to attack the human race, the god race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race? The overlords of the three major races were already severely injured. If these people were to attack, who would be able to stop them? So, at this moment, the beings of the three major races were also extremely terrified. Dong Zhengyang, tell me, are they monsters? In the village, Boss Ji stared at Dong Zhengyang and asked. Hearing this question, Dong Zhengyang smiled bitterly. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that these guys were monsters. 3 days passed. There was not a single creature left in the East Continent. Whether it was the land where the beast race was or the sea where the oceanic race was, they were all shrouded in a thick blood mist. At this moment, there was nothing in the East Continent except for the pungent smell of blood. In the sky above a broken mountain, Qin Feiyang stood in the sky with satisfaction. Although the spirit vein and crystal vein of the Dragon God Mountain had been destroyed, he had searched all the territories of the beast race and found countless crystal veins. Whoosh! Accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, Long Qin finally came to meet Qin Feiyang with hundreds of avatars. You must have had a good time killing. Qin Feiyang smiled. Long Qin sized up Qin Feiyang and frowned. Are you a devil? Huh? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Why did he scold him for no reason? Long Qin said disdainfully, the entire beast race has been flattened by us and you can still laugh. Don't you have any sympathy? Qin Feiyang was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he hurriedly said, wait a minute. Who was it that led my 3,000 avatars to kill the beast race? Well. Longqin coughed and said awkwardly, I know what you want to do, so Anyway, I'm just doing it for you. The real executioner is still you. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He raised his hand and flicked Longqin's forehead slightly. It hurts. Longqin rubbed her forehead and glared at Qin Feiyang. You still know pain? Let's see if you dare to lie through your teeth in the future. Qin Feiyang glared at her. Moreover, with Longqin's personality, would she have sympathy? Forget it. If she really had sympathy, she wouldn't have tried so hard to kill them in the ancient realm. Longqin laughed dryly. But speaking of which, there's something wrong with these two people? Did the white-eyed wolf provoke you again? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. No. Longqin shook her head and turned to look elsewhere. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. It seemed that it was really the white-eyed wolf's fault. However, these few days, the white-eyed wolf seemed to be a little strange. Buzz. Right then. The voice of the divine sound transmission stone could be heard. Qin Feiyang took it out and a smile appeared on his face. As the divine sound transmission stone recovered, the phantoms of the white-eyed wolf and the lunatic appeared. They were covered in blood and exuded a shocking murderous aura. Where are you? The white-eyed wolf asked. Qin Feiyang told the two of them the coordinates. They immediately opened the space-time tunnel and came to meet him. Yo! Missy is here too. The lunatic grinned at Longqin. I was here when you sent the message just now. Didn't you see it? Longqin rolled her eyes. He was simply trying to find a topic to talk about. The lunatic grinned and looked at Qin Feiyang. How's your side? The soul vein and crystal vein are almost all looted. Even if there are some left, there aren't many left. As for the specific number, we have to wait for the Fire Lotus, Pai Lupi, and Theta Wang to count it. Anyway, there must be a lot. Qin Feiyang smiled. It's similar to our situation. The lunatic grinned and looked at Longqin. Have you killed all the beast race? No. Many of them fled to the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent. I guess there are still some beast venerables among them. Longqin shook his head. It's the same for the sea race. After slaughtering the sea god's island, we ran to other islands. Many of them have become empty islands. The lunatic said angrily. What about the sea gods? Qin Feiyang asked. Is there a need to ask? They are recuperating on the sea god's island. They can't escape death. But, speaking of this, the lunatic frowned slightly. The inner demons, Lu Jiajin, and the other 8 prodigies divine souls, we haven't found them. I don't know where they went. There's no need to worry about the inner demons and big cousin. The 8 prodigies' strength is similar to yours. There's no need to worry about them. As for the remnants of the Beast Clan and the Sea Clan, there's no need to go to great lengths to find them. The Sea King, the Dragon God, and the other higher-ups have all been annihilated. The remaining people won't be able to do anything. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. What do you mean by similar to us? What do you mean? Are you looking down on us? Not only the lunatic, but the white-eyed wolf and Longqin also stared at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang laughed. With a wave of his hand, the 4 disappeared without a trace. Not long after. Then, many figures flew across the sky. Some of these people were from the human race, some were from the god race, and some were from the purple-gold divine dragon race. Along the way, they glanced at the shattered and devastated land. Their eyes were filled with shock and horror. The glorious beast race and the sea race were destroyed by Qin Feiyang and his group just like that? This isn't a dream, right? Black Tortoise World. 3 days outside, but 15,000 years had passed in the Black Tortoise World. In these 15,000 years, the 3 sovereign divine weapons and the divine souls of Yu Lao and the others had been suppressed by the 3,000 incarnations in the sky above the Devil's Land. At this moment, seeing Qin Feiyang and the other 3 enter, Neptune and the dragon god immediately looked at the 4. After 15,000 years, their divine souls had recovered a lot, but they were still far from rebuilding their physical bodies. Want to know the current situation of the beast race and the sea race? The white-eyed wolf stepped forward and looked at the 2 mockingly. Neptune and the dragon god didn't deny it. Don't worry. I left some seeds for you. It's still a little far from extinction. However, it's probably impossible to recover to the peak forever. The white-eyed wolf smiled. Bastard! I curse you, you won't have a good death. The 2 roared. Curse all you want, that's all you have. The white-eyed wolf didn't care at all. With a wave of his hand, a barrier thousands of feet long appeared. Imprisoned inside were all the remnant souls of the sea race. How many were there? Lord Neptune, quickly save us, I don't want to die, the resources are gone, the clansmen are gone, our sea race is completely finished. As soon as these remnant souls appeared, they immediately cried out in grief when they saw Neptune. What are you shouting about? Do you believe that I can destroy you right now? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. The barrier, which was originally noisy, quieted down in an instant. They all stared at the white-eyed wolf in horror. My clansmen, Neptune murmured. Looking at those remnant souls, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. He slowly knelt in the void, looked at Qin Feiyang, and begged, kill me, let my clansmen go, I beg you, please be merciful, okay? Qin Feiyang looked at Neptune in silence. I will kowtow to you, Neptune kowtowed while begging. Where was the arrogant attitude from before? He had completely given up his dignity. Chapter 42:11. Looking at the painful Neptune, to be honest, if it were anyone else, they would definitely sympathize with him. But facing Neptune, Qin Feiyang and the others really couldn't sympathize with him. This was because the Sea King would not have shown any mercy if it had been them instead. Where's your brother? The madman looked at Long Qin. Over there. Long Qin looked to the west of the Devil's Land. The madman followed her gaze and saw a white figure sitting cross-legged in the medicine field thousands of miles away. Who else could it be but Long Chen? At this moment, Long Chen's body exuded the power of time. Obviously, he was fusing with the ultimate meaning of the time law. Let's not disturb him now. Long Qin was a little hesitant. She knew the madman's purpose was nothing more than to let her brother help to seize the ultimate meaning now. A long night is fraught with dreams. The madman sighed. Long Qin nodded. It made sense. After all, Neptune and the others were too strong. If they didn't get rid of them quickly, it was hard to guarantee that there wouldn't be any accidents. I say, don't tell me you really killed all the beast venerables of the beast race. The white-eyed wolf glanced at Long Qin and asked. One must know. These beast venerables all mastered the ultimate meaning. Even if it was just the ultimate meaning of an ordinary law, it was still very valuable. Do you really think I'm stupid? Long Qin glared at the white-eyed wolf. With a wave of her jade-like hand, a huge barrier appeared in the void next to her, suppressing countless remnant souls inside. Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at each other. They really thought that Long Qin had killed all the beast venerables of the beast race, so they didn't ask. But they didn't expect that she would take out so many remnant souls now. It was estimated that there were at least tens of thousands. These are the beast venerables of the beast race. As for the other beasts, I didn't leave any alive. Long Qin said lightly. Qin Feiyang and the madman couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. Other than beast sovereigns and beast gods, beast emperors and beast kings were of little value to the beast clan. There are so many members of the Sea clan and the Beast clan. It's hard to imagine how many ultimate mysteries we can obtain. The white-eyed wolf whispered. Whether it was the ultimate profundity of ordinary laws or the ultimate profundity of supreme laws, they were all just numbers in their eyes. The only regret was that none of the beast race and sea race had grasped the law of life and death. Otherwise, he would have really profited. Yulao has the law of light and darkness, right? Madman suddenly looked at Yulao. Yulao's eyes trembled when he heard this. Was he trying to steal the ultimate profundity of the laws of light and darkness? What? Now, even your old life belongs to us, let alone your ultimate profound. White-eyed wolf sneered at Yulao. Kill me. Yulao roared. I'm sorry, but it's hard for you to die now. White-eyed wolf bared his teeth, causing Yulao to fall into the abyss of despair. Last time, we obtained 5 laws of light and darkness. Me, White-eyed wolf, senior brother, Little Qin, and Long Chen, 1 each. Then who are we going to give Yulao's law of light and darkness to? Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 of them and asked. Give it to me. Long Qin said. White-eyed wolf and madman were taken aback and turned to look at Long Qin suspiciously. Didn't you already have it? Why do you need it? Just give it to me. Long Qin didn't explain. The 2 looked at each other. Long Qin seemed to only have one relative, Long Chen. Now that Long Chen and Long Qin had it, who were they preparing it for? Longzuan. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. Longzuan? The 2 of them were taken aback for a moment, then patted their heads and suddenly realized. That's right. It must be prepared for Longzuan. Because the laws of light and darkness were very difficult to fuse, there was almost none in the sky cloud realm. You don't have any objections, right? Long Qin looked at the 3 of them. How dare we have any objections? Madman smiled bitterly and nodded, okay, I'll give it to you. They still had to count on Long Chen's help. If Long Chen was unwilling, it would be useless no matter how many people they captured. That's more like it. I'll go and drag Big Brother here now. Long Qin smiled proudly and turned to fly toward Long Chen. White-eyed wolf pursed his lips as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say it. Brother Wolf, what's going on between you and Long Qin? Madman was curious. It's nothing. White-eyed wolf waved his hand. Brother, are you still hiding something from us? Madman's face darkened. There must be something wrong here. Cut the crap. White-eyed wolf glared at him and looked at Long Qin's back. There was also an indescribable emotion in his eyes. Madman looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shrugged helplessly. He didn't know anything else, but he had already discovered one thing. These 2 enemies who had been quarreling endlessly had stopped quarreling in the past few days. This was quite rare. After a while, Long Qin dragged Long Chen over. Can't you let me master the will of the heavenly Tao first? Long Chen looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2 unhappily. There were all kinds of ultimate profound meanings, but why was it so difficult to master the will of the heavenly Tao? This little sister was the same. It hadn't been long, but she had colluded with Qin Feiyang and the others and didn't consider him as her big brother at all. Thank you for your hard work. Madman smiled flatteringly. Long Chen rolled his eyes. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang helping him shamelessly get dozens of divine tea trees from Master Jijiu, he really didn't want to do these troublesome things. Let's begin. Looking at the remnant souls suppressed in the 2 barriers, Long Chen's eyes were filled with helplessness. This was another big project. Qin Feiyang also quickly called Xiao Shui, Li Zhongsheng, and Old Poison over to assist Long Chen. Madman asked, "Old Qin, what are your plans next?" "I plan to," Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, "Right now, we have to think of a way to protect the human race, the god race, and the purple gold divine dragon race." Protect them? Madman and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other. What did he mean? This time, the sea race and the beast race are almost wiped out. However, although the experts of the human race, the god race, and the purple gold divine dragon race were seriously injured by us, there were no casualties. Faced with this situation, what do you think the Central Dynasty's emperor will think when he finds out? Qin Feiyang's brows were filled with worry. That's right. Neptune, the dragon god, the sea gods, and the beast gods were all captured by us. As for the king and the others, we only heavily injured them. This seems to be a little biased. The Central Dynasty's people aren't stupid. When they see this situation, they might suspect the king and the others. Madman frowned. So, we have to think of a way. Qin Feiyang lowered his head, his eyes flickering. What way? We can't just run over and capture the king and the others. White-Eyed Wolf asked. I think it's possible. Since the Black Tortoise world is so big, the core members of the three races should be able to survive in the Black Tortoise world. Madman nodded. In other words, on the surface, we captured the core members of the three races, but in reality, we let them enter the Black Tortoise world to hide their strength and recuperate? White-Eyed Wolf said. Yes. Madman replied. We haven't reached that step yet, right? Qin Feiyang shook his head and chuckled. Moreover, only the king, the divine king, the sovereign of the human race and heavenly Lord Ji knew about the alliance. Everyone else was still in the dark. If they were all brought to the Black Tortoise world at once, it would probably cause quite a commotion. Then what do you have in mind? Madman frowned. I do have a way. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then tell us, don't keep us in suspense. White-Eyed Wolf glared at him. We can put on another show with the king, the divine king, and the sovereign of the human race. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. What show? The two were suspicious. Qin Feiyang moved closer to their ears and whispered a few words. White-Eyed Wolf and Madman heard this and hesitated for a while before asking, will this work? It should work. Qin Feiyang nodded. White-Eyed Wolf pondered for a while and said, as long as you think it will work, it will definitely work. Then, shall we release the news now? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Long Chen with a smile. Then you go ahead. Long Chen rolled his eyes at him. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly and waved his hand, leaving the Black Tortoise world with White-Eyed Wolf and Madman. Chapter 42:12. The horizon turned white. The sun gradually rose. Everything on the earth woke up one by one. After dawn, three figures appeared in the sky above Qingtian City. Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, Golden-Winged Wolf King. As soon as the three appeared, the entire city fell into chaos. What are they doing here? Are they really planning to slaughter the human race? No. I don't want to die yet. Run. Before Qin Feiyang and the other two said anything, the people in the city began to rush out of the city. Are we that scary? The corner of Madman's mouth twitched. He looked at these people as if they were demons. What do you think? In the eyes of the world, the sea race and the beast race are unreachable existences. But now, in just one night, the two races were destroyed by us. It would be strange if they weren't afraid of us. Qin Feiyang shook his head. But are we really protecting them? Madman pouted. The sea race and the beast race were different, because they were the subordinates of the divine kingdom. But the human race, the god race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race were all targets they had to protect. But the key is that they don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He looked at the fleeing people and said, "Please tell the king that the divine king, the sovereign of the human race, will come to Qingtian City tomorrow at noon." "What do you mean? Not to massacre the city?" Everyone stopped and looked at each other. "If the divine king, the divine kingdom, and the sovereign don't come tomorrow, then we might really massacre the city." After Qin Feiyang said that, he opened a space-time tunnel. The three turned around and left. "Quickly think of a way to contact the people of Mount Supreme, the Divine Island, and the purple-gold divine dragon race." "How do we contact them? We can't even enter the Divine Island and Mount Supreme. We have to find the city lord about this. He can contact the people of Mount Supreme and the Divine Island." This news quickly spread across the 3 continents. Everyone was in danger. They all looked towards Mount Supreme, the godly island, and the purple-gold divine dragon's territory. Whether or not the 3 continents could escape the fate of being massacred all depended on the decision of the 3 monarchs. In the past, they would not have believed that Qin Feiyang and the others had the ability to slaughter the 3 continents. But things were different now. The beast race and the sea race were examples. East Continent. The broken earth, the bloody mist that filled the air, and the pungent smell of blood seemed to be telling a sad story. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 walked in the void without any ripples in their eyes. It wasn't that they were cold-blooded and heartless, but they were already used to this kind of scene. What are they doing now? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. "Find the inner demons." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Even if the inner demons were only remnant souls, he could still sense the location of the inner demons. Originally, he had planned to wait for the inner demons to reconstruct their bodies before coming to him. But now, he had to find the inner demons to find out about many things. For example, the foundation of the Central Dynasty. For example, how long would it take for the people of the Central Dynasty to come out and reach the 4 great continents? He sensed that they soon entered the sea. The sea was boundless. But the sea had been dyed red with blood. Corpses of the sea race could be seen everywhere. This was the masterpiece of the white-eyed wolf and the lunatic. Sometimes, they would also encounter some remnants of the sea race. Because the news of the 3 of them appearing in Qingtian City had spread, the remnants of the sea race thought that the East Continent was safe. But they did not expect to see the 3 of them in the sea. Were they here to kill them all? So, any remnants of the sea race who saw Qin Feiyang and the other 2 immediately fled desperately. However, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 did not chase after them. There was indeed no need. After losing Neptune, the sea gods, and the core members of the sea race on the sea gods island, the rest of the sea race were no longer a concern. The most important thing was, now, whether it was the sea race or the beast race, those who had mastered the ultimate profundity had basically been captured. Even if there were some who escaped, they could be ignored. About an hour later, the 3 of them had already gone deep into the sea. A small island entered their line of sight. On the island, rocks were everywhere, and the plants were withered and yellow. This was an inconspicuous island. The diameter of the entire island was only about 100,000 feet. There were no powerful sea beasts on the island, nor were there any members of the sea race living on it. But this time, Qin Feiyang came for this island. "They are here?" Seeing Qin Feiyang stop, the lunatic and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other and immediately scanned the island. Other than some weak sea beasts, there was not even a shadow of a person. "Yes. I just don't know if the other 8 prodigies are with them. Qin Feiyang whispered. Wouldn't it be better if they are together? The lunatic bared his teeth. Once the 8 prodigies fell into their hands, they would be able to obtain dozens of ultimate profundities. The white-eyed wolf also snickered. Boom! Divine sense rolled out and instantly enveloped the entire island. The next moment, 2 streams of light rushed out from a hole on the island and landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the other 2, gradually turning into 2 figures. That's right. It was the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. And at this moment, they were not wearing masks. That familiar face, that familiar gaze, made Qin Feiyang extremely excited. The white-eyed wolf was the same. The lunatic looked at the 2 of them curiously. The inner demons looked exactly the same as Qin Feiyang. Lu Jiajin also had an imposing appearance and was a talent. Qin Feiyang spoke. But he seemed to have some concerns. It's okay. It's very convenient now, you can say whatever you want. Lu Jiajin smiled slightly. Cousin. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he couldn't control the emotions in his heart. He quickly ran over, and his eyes were filled with tears. After so many years, why are you still like a kid? The inner demons looked at him with disdain. Who's a kid? Aren't I happy? Qin Feiyang wiped away his tears and glared at the inner demons. Huh. The inner demons laughed. But the next moment, killing intent flashed in his eyes, and a wave of divine sense gushed out and blasted toward the island below. Boom! With a loud bang, the island turned into ashes on the spot, and all the sea beasts on the island disappeared as if they had evaporated into thin air. What are you doing? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The inner demon said, we can't let these sea beasts know about our relationship. Otherwise, it won't be good for both of us. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at the 2 with a smile. How have you been these years? Haven't you seen it all? We've been living a better life than you. The inner demon snickered. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. You've been living a good life, but these years, we've been in so much pain that we wish we were dead, especially little Qin Zi. He's been living in self-blame every day, knowing that he killed you. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. So, you're going to ask us to compensate you for your mental loss? The inner demons asked. Not bad. After so many years, you still know me so well. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Look at you. Even I know what you're going to do when you stick out your butt. The inner demons despised him. Ha! The white-eyed wolf laughed dryly. Lu Jiajin looked at the white-eyed wolf and the inner demons, and then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, it's good that you're all alive. The 3 of them were stunned and looked at each other. After a long time, they nodded and said, yes. It could be said that. There was nothing happier than this. Lu Jiajin looked at Madman and said with a smile, little cousin, don't you want to introduce him? Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyang patted his head, hurriedly pulled Madman to his side, and said with a smile, this guy is Madman Mo. We met in the ancient world, and he is very familiar with the 2 ancestors. If he hadn't taken care of me in the ancient world, I don't know how many dangers I would have encountered. I've heard of Brother Mo's name a long time ago. Thank you for taking care of Feiyang, Brother Mo. Lu Jiajin cupped his hands and smiled. I'm also an ancestor-level senior. It's my duty to take care of a junior like him. Madman bared his teeth. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He was really thinking about taking advantage of him all the time. The white-eyed wolf smiled mysteriously and said, and this guy has another identity. What identity? The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were curious. The reincarnation of the Blood Demon King. The white-eyed wolf said. The Blood Demon King. The two looked at Madman in surprise. You also know about the Blood Demon King? This time, it was Qin Feiyang and the other two who were a little surprised. We know a little. When we came to the four great continents, we inquired about the grudges between the Divine Kingdom and the Sky Cloud Realm. Among them is the grudges between the Blood Demon King and Ji Yunhai. Lu Jiaji nodded and smiled, looking at Madman and said, I really didn't expect you to be his reincarnation. Brother Mo's righteous deeds in his previous life are admirable. It's nothing. Madman waved his hand, blushing. Qin Feiyang asked, Cousin, inner demons, why don't we go to the Black Tortoise Realm? Okay. We also want to see what the Black Tortoise Realm has become after all these years. Lu Jiajin smiled. By the way, where are the 8 prodigies who came with you? The white-eyed wolf looked at the two suspiciously. They returned to the Central Dynasty. Lu Jiajin said. They went back so soon. The 3 were surprised. What can these trash do if they stay? The inner demon's face was full of disdain. Hearing this, the 3 were speechless. The prodigies who mastered the will of the heavenly Tao were trash. If these 8 people were trash, then what were Ryuko and the others? Were they worse than trash? Sure enough. The inner demons were as arrogant as ever. That's a pity. I wanted to deprive them of their ultimate meaning. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. When they returned to the Central Dynasty, they could only stare. Chapter 42:13. Deprive the ultimate profound. Lu Jiajin glanced at the white-eyed wolf, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, What exactly is this deprive the ultimate profound? You'll know when you go to the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang smiled. With a wave of his hand, the 5 of them appeared in the tea garden of the Devil's Land. So many herbs. Looking at the current Black Tortoise world, the inner demons were dumbfounded. What rich energy! Lu Jiajin was also shocked. It's changed a lot. Qin Feiyang smiled. It's not just big, it's a completely different world from before. The inner demons was filled with emotions. He scanned the Devil's Land and asked, Where are we now? The Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. What? The Devil's Land? The inner demons was stunned. In his impression, the Devil's Land was an extremely dangerous and desolate place. But now, here, the sun was shining brightly and auspicious vapors were rising. It was simply a paradise. Is this a place? Don't fool me. Over the years, he had imagined the changes of the Black Tortoise world. But now, the scene he saw was completely beyond his imagination. Why would I fool you? Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed, but to be honest, it's not easy for the Black Tortoise world to grow to this point. It was a simple sentence, but it contained all of the bitterness. Definitely. The inner demons nodded. Not to mention the growth of a world, even the growth of a person had to experience countless setbacks and tribulations. Where are they? Madman scanned the sky suspiciously. Long Chen, Long Qin, Xiao Shui, and the others, why wasn't there a single person? Moreover, the countless remnant souls suppressed and the 3 high-grade sovereign divine weapons were nowhere to be seen. Qin Feiyang also noticed this, and a trace of suspicion appeared on his face. Just as he was about to release his perception to search for Long Chen and the others, a beautiful figure descended from the sky. It was Fire Lotus. Qin Dage. Fire Lotus smiled and landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the others. The inner demons, Lu Jiajin, looked at Fire Lotus suspiciously. Where are Long Chen and the others? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. I sent them to Soul Seal Valley. After all, everyone is cultivating in seclusion. I don't want to be disturbed. Fire Lotus smiled. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and said with a smile, you are so thoughtful. Wait a moment. Why do I feel like she's familiar? The inner demon said as she sized up the fiery lotus, her face full of suspicion. Fire Lotus also looked at the inner demons and smiled. Long time no see. We know each other? The inner demons was surprised. Fire Lotus pursed her lips and smiled. She looked at the inner demons and said, think about it carefully. The inner demons lowered his head and pondered, but he couldn't think of anything. Let me give you a reminder. The land of the undead in the ancient world, the white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. The ancient world, the land of the undead, the inner demons murmured. You still can't think of anything? The white-eyed wolf said helplessly, let me give you another reminder. A rusty axe. A rusty axe, the inner demons lowered his head and pondered. After a long time, a trace of surprise gradually appeared in his eyes. He looked at Fire Lotus and asked, you can't be that undead from back then, right? That's me. Fire Lotus nodded. This, the inner demons was dumbfounded. Back then, when Qin Feiyang first entered the ancient world, he met Fire Lotus. Later, when Qin Feiyang returned to the Great Qin and fought with the Demon Lord and the others, Fire Lotus had been in the Black Tortoise realm. At that time, the inner demons were still around, so he knew about Fire Lotus. However, because Fire Lotus hadn't reconstructed her physical body at that time, the inner demons felt a sense of familiarity. How is it? You didn't expect that the little undead who shamelessly followed us back then was actually such a stunning beauty, right? The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Brother Wolf, what nonsense are you talking about? Fire Lotus's cheeks turned red. Huh, the white-eyed wolf laughed. I really didn't expect it. It's too surprising. The inner demons shook his head and asked, so now, you're no longer an undead? This was because he didn't feel the slightest bit of undead chi on Fire Lotus. She's already gone through her tribulation and got rid of her undead body. Qin Feiyang smiled. No wonder. The inner demons nodded in realization. All these years, it's all thanks to this girl. Do you know who's the one who made the Black Tortoise realm what it is today? It's Fire Lotus. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The Black Tortoise realm today is the result of everyone's hard work. I don't dare to claim this credit alone. Fire Lotus hurriedly waved her hands. Don't be humble. With this noble one's brain, how can I manage such a big world? The inner demons looked at Qin Feiyang with disdain. You make it sound like I'm stupid. Qin Feiyang was speechless. I'm your inner demons. Don't I know you? The inner demons rolled his eyes. Can you give me some face? Qin Feiyang's face darkened. They started to undermine him as soon as they met. They were born from the same root. Why are you so anxious to destroy each other? Fire Lotus couldn't help but snicker at the side. Qin Feiyang pointed at Lu Jiajin and said with a smile, girl, let me introduce you. This is my cousin, the owner of the Eye of Nothingness, Lu Jiajin. Hello. Lu Jiajin reached out his hand with a gentle smile on his face. Hello. Fire Lotus also reached out her hand. The white-eyed wolf sized up the two of them. His eyes turned slightly, and he transmitted his voice, Little Qin Zi, haven't you been worrying about Fire Lotus's marriage? Isn't this the best opportunity? Huh? Qin Feiyang turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. Look at them. How compatible. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He couldn't help but size up his cousin and Fire Lotus. Don't say it. At first glance, they were indeed quite compatible. The man was dignified and had an extraordinary temperament. The woman was as beautiful as a flower and as beautiful as the moon. The most important thing was, Lu Jiajin and Fire Lotus were both his family members. As the saying goes, one should not let one's own fertile water flow into one's own fields. He could really matchmake them. What do you think? The white-eyed wolf snickered. Not bad, not bad. Qin Feiyang nodded. The white-eyed wolf chuckled and said, cousin. Huh? Lu Jiajin turned to look at him. By the way, are you still single? The white-eyed wolf snickered. What do you mean? Lu Jiajin looked at him in confusion. Just answer me. The white-eyed wolf urged. Before Lu Jiajin could speak, the inner demon said first, even if he is single, he deserves it. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at the inner demon suspiciously. You don't know how popular he is in the Central Dynasty. The women who like him can line up from the West Continent to the East Continent. And those women are all God's favored daughters of the Central Dynasty. Even the princess of the Central Dynasty, the apple of the emperor's eye, admires him. But this guy is just like an ice-cold rock, completely ignoring them. I'm even suspecting if there's something wrong with him in that aspect. The inner demons despised him. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at Lu Jiajin in astonishment. Was it so exaggerated? The line could line up from the West Continent to the East Continent? Even the emperor's daughter fell in love with him? I'm not exaggerating at all. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Central Dynasty and have a look. The inner demons pursed his lips. Are you jealous? Lu Jiajin looked at the inner demons in amusement. What's there to be jealous of? The inner demons didn't care. Big cousin is indeed big cousin. His charm is unparalleled. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth. Lu Jiajin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could the inner demons be so exaggerated? In that case, you're still single. The white-eyed wolf said. Why? Are you going to introduce me to someone? Lu Jiajin asked jokingly. Yes. Far away on the horizon, close in front of you. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Suddenly, he raised his naughty paw and pushed Fire Lotus hard. Caught off guard, Fire Lotus immediately fell into Lu Jiajin's arms. Lu Jiajin was stunned. He quickly reached out and held Fire Lotus, afraid that she would fall. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Who would have thought that the white-eyed wolf would do such a thing? They were all stunned on the spot. Fire Lotus and Lu Jiajin, who were hugging each other, were at a loss for a moment. When they came back to their senses, Lu Jiajin quickly let go of Fire Lotus. Fire Lotus also hurriedly got up from Lu Jiajin's arms. She turned her head and glared at the white-eyed wolf, saying, "Brother Wolf, what are you doing?" After saying that, she turned and left angrily, her cheeks flushed red. Huh, the white-eyed wolf laughed. The more he looked at them, the more compatible they were. Chapter 42:14. You're a little too much. Madman glared at the white-eyed wolf. The two of them had just met, how could he be so direct? Although Fire Lotus was the 9th Heaven Palace Master and had seen the world, she was still a woman and was thin-skinned. Don't you think they're a good match? The white-eyed wolf looked at Madman unhappily. A good match is a good match, but shouldn't they get to know each other first? Madman was furious. It was simply more of a hindrance. What's there to understand? We know Big Cousin's character and personality. We also know Fire Lotus's character and personality. There's no need to go through those formalities, just bow to heaven and earth and enter the bridal chamber. Big Cousin, don't you think so? The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth at Lu Jiajin. Lu Jiajin hadn't recovered yet, and when he heard this, he couldn't help but be angry. How could he matchmake them like this? Bow to heaven and earth and enter the bridal chamber? Why didn't he just skip the bow to heaven and earth and enter the bridal chamber directly? After all, it was a major event in life. Why did he make it so childish? Don't mess around. Lu Jiajin glared at the white-eyed wolf, then looked at Fire Lotus's back and said with a smile, "To be valued by little cousin, she must be a good woman. I can't delay her. See, this is the standard of a good man. I'd rather be a bachelor than ruin her." Madman looked at the white-eyed wolf and said with disdain. "Wait. What do you mean? I'm a bad man. I'm in a relationship, so I'm ruining her. Little madman, you have to make yourself clear today, or I won't let you off." The white-eyed wolf grabbed Madman's clothes and roared fiercely. However, Madman ignored him. "I really miss it." Seeing Madman and the white-eyed wolf fighting, the inner demon sighed. They hadn't seen this scene for many years. His last impression was the scene of white-eyed wolf, Lu Zheng, and Ling Yunfei fooling around. But now, it was a lunatic. But it could be seen that this lunatic had a very good relationship with Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. They were the kind of brothers who would risk their lives for each other. Where are Fatso, Ling Yunfei, and Lu Zheng? The inner demons asked. Them. They're all enjoying life in Great Qin. Now, they have many children and grandchildren. The white-eyed wolf said. Children and grandchildren? The inner demons were stunned. Yeah. Many years ago, they already had children. Before coming to the Sky Cloud realm, we went back. Those little brats were already drinking and picking up girls everywhere. The white-eyed wolf bared its fangs. So you're saying that the student has surpassed the master? The inner demons were astonished. Of course. Can our descendants be bad? The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly, then looked at Lu Jiajin, bared its fangs, and said, Big cousin, you have to hurry up. Otherwise, when you go back, Lu Zheng's great-grandchildren will be everywhere. Lu Jiajin smiled bitterly and asked, Then who did he marry? You all know her, Little Hong. The white-eyed wolf said. Lu Hong. Lu Jiajin recalled a little and asked. Yes. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Not bad. Lu Jiajin nodded. What's not bad? He's a total henpecked husband. He's a disgrace to us men. The white-eyed wolf's face was full of disdain. Great Qin. A man in his 30s was sitting in the courtyard, leisurely drinking tea. Achoo. Suddenly. He sneezed. What's wrong? Next to him, a beautiful woman was washing clothes. Hearing the sneeze, she raised her head and looked at the young man suspiciously. Needless to say, someone must be thinking of me. The man bared his teeth, looking like he was asking for a beating. You're old and indecent. The beautiful woman glared at him, looked up at the sky, and muttered, I wonder how Qin Dage and the others are doing now. Yes. After so many years, they haven't come back to visit us. How heartless. The man shook his head and sighed. What are you talking about? You haven't gone back for so many years. Shouldn't you be worried about them? You still say that they have no conscience. I think the older you get, the thicker your skin becomes. The beautiful woman glared at him fiercely. If I wasn't thick-skinned, how could I have pursued you? The man bared his teeth and stretched out his naughty hand. Scram. The beautiful woman's cheeks turned red. She slapped the man's hand away and said angrily, The older you get, the more indecent you become. I'm not decent. Hurry up, let's go make another one. The man chuckled, picked up the beautiful woman, and ran into the house. Black Tortoise whirled. Lu Jiajin and the inner demons looked at each other. Looking at the white-eyed wolf, they were speechless. After so many years, this wolf cub's character really hadn't changed at all. A few words could anger people to death. The inner demons was silent for a while. Looking at Qin Feiyang, he asked, "What about them?" "Them?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "It's Mom and Dad." The inner demons stammered. Qin Feiyang couldn't help laughing and said, "My parents are your parents. Why are you being so shy?" The inner demons laughed dryly. "They're all very good. And they gave birth to many younger brothers and sisters for us." Qin Feiyang smiled. "What? Many younger brothers and sisters?" The inner demons were dumbfounded. Hey, hey. Why are you so surprised? They're still so young. Is there a problem with having a few children? Qin Feiyang stared at him speechlessly. No problem. I'm just a little surprised." The inner demons hurriedly waved his hands. "It's really quite surprising." Lu Jiajin also nodded and asked, "Have you seen them?" "Yes. The last time I saw them, except for the youngest pair of twins, the others had already grown up." Qin Feiyang nodded. "There are twins?" The inner demons was stunned. "Yes. A younger brother, a younger sister, a pair of twins." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. "Damn. Our father is still vigorous despite his age." The inner demon's mouth twitched. He could even make twins. Awesome. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. The inner demons were becoming more and more like the white-eyed wolf. They couldn't even say anything nice. "What's their character like?" Lu Jiajin asked with a smile. "Some are okay, and some are not. After all, they were born in the royal family. It's inevitable to fight for power. However, when I went back, I cleaned them up. Now, they're not bad." Qin Feiyang nodded. "How did you clean them up?" The inner demons were curious. "How else can I clean them up? I taught them a good lesson." Qin Feiyang was speechless. Why were they like curious babies? You taught them a good lesson? Don't joke. I guess they were tortured by you quite a bit. The inner demons rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. As expected of his inner demons, they knew him very well. He smiled and said, "Anyway, everyone has changed a lot. But no matter what, father and mother have always been worried about you. If they know that you're still alive, I don't know how happy they will be." The inner demons heard this and felt a lump in his throat. "It's okay. When the matter in the divine kingdom is settled, we'll go back together." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Okay." The inner demons nodded. Tada. At this time, with a series of footsteps, 3 beautiful figures walked over. It was the mermaid princess, Fire Dance, and Xiaofan. "Why are you here?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned. The mermaid princess smiled and said, "I heard from Fire Lotus that Big Cousin and the inner demons came to the Black Tortoise world, so we came to see." The inner demons and Lu Jiajin immediately looked at the 3 girls. Of course, they knew the mermaid princess. Not only did they know her, but they were also very familiar with her. But Fire Dance and Xiaofan were very unfamiliar with her. "Cousin. Inner demons." The mermaid princess walked over and stood beside Qin Feiyang with a gentle smile. Good. After all these years, you've become more and more beautiful. My little cousin, I don't know what good karma he accumulated in his previous life." Lu Jiajin nodded and was very pleased. "Ahem. I'm not bad either, okay?" Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and looked at Lu Jiajin unhappily. "Brat. Lu Jiajin scolded jokingly. Qin Feiyang hugged the mermaid princess and looked at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, saying, "Let me formally introduce you. This is your sister-in-law, my wife." Huh? The two of them were stunned. Sister-in-law? In that case, yes, we're married. Qin Feiyang nodded. The two of them looked at each other. Already married? No way. They always thought that Qin Feiyang was still single. Chapter 42:15. What's the point of a simple blessing? Give me something more practical. Do you think it's so easy to be the big brother? The white-eyed wolf grinned. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin looked at each other helplessly. This wolf cub was really digging a hole with every step he took. The inner demon said, "You don't need anything now, do you?" Yes. For example, the demon king true form. Or the law of life and death. The white-eyed wolf grinned. Piss off. The inner demon's face darkened. Stingy. The white-eyed wolf grumbled. I don't want to waste my time talking to you. The inner demons glared at him, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Let's go. Take us to the Black Tortoise realm." Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. He looked at the mermaid princess and the other two and said, "Go and cultivate in seclusion. I have a feeling that the war between us and the Central Dynasty will erupt soon. When that happens, we won't be able to take care of you. Don't worry. I won't be a burden." Fire Dance said calmly. Of course. Why would my sister Phoenix be a burden? We still need Sister Phoenix to turn the tide in the future. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Stop flattering me. Fire Dance glared at him. Then, the three girls left hand in hand. Zhuo Xiaoxian looked at the mermaid princess and asked innocently, "Big sister mermaid, is he really the inner demons?" Yes. The mermaid princess nodded. The inner demons are so kind. This is the first time I've seen them. Zhuo Xiaoxian was surprised. What kind of person did you think he was? The mermaid princess asked with a smile. I thought, Zhuo Xiaoxian pondered for a while and said with a smile, I thought he was a cold-blooded, ruthless demon. The mermaid princess shook her head and laughed. The inner demons in the past were indeed like that. But now, if one didn't see it with their own eyes, it would be hard to imagine that he was the inner demons. Little lunatic, how dare your little girlfriend talk about our inner demons like that? Big brother, are you tired of living? The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Stop trying to drive a wedge between us. Madman glared at him, then looked at the inner demons. Not to mention Zhuo Xiaoxian, even he was wondering if those were Qin Feiyang's inner demons. How could the inner demons be so amiable? Let's go. Qin Feiyang smiled. Hence, the group of 5 left the demonic land and headed to the central prefecture and the 4 great domains. Half a year passed. The half a year here referred to the time in the Black Tortoise realm. In the outside world, only a short while had passed. Half a year later, the 5 of them traveled around the Black Tortoise world. Looking at the current Black Tortoise world, even Qin Feiyang was shocked. Because the current Black Tortoise world was comparable to 2 eastern continents. Its growth rate was too fast. In fact, he didn't know that the last time the Black Tortoise world and the ancient castle evolved, the Black Tortoise world instantly soared by a large margin. Whether it was the central prefecture or the 4 great domains, they had far surpassed the past. Even Qin Feiyang was like this, let alone the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. The feelings in their hearts could only be described as shock. This was a completely different world from the Black Tortoise world of the past. It was already a real world. What surprised them the most was the local customs here. In the past half a year, they rarely saw fighting and killing. Whether it was humans or beasts, everyone was as harmonious as a family. To be able to manage the black tortoise world like this Fire Lotus is really a capable woman. Old Lu, why don't you consider it? The inner demons couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. The corner of Lu Jiajin's mouth twitched, and he said speechlessly, "Even you are fooling around?" "What do you mean fooling around? Haven't you seen my attitude towards Fire Lotus? If an ordinary man wants to touch Fire Lotus, he probably won't allow it." The inner demons chuckled. "We'll talk about it later." Lu Jiajin waved his hand, looking a little helpless. The white-eyed wolf's eyes lit up and asked, "So, you're actually interested in Fire Lotus? Aren't you guys annoying? I just met her. What kind of feelings can I have? If you continue to fool around, you guys will send me out." Lu Jiajin's face darkened. What kind of people were these? It was as if he missed out on Fire Lotus, he would really be a bachelor for the rest of his life. Okay. Take it slow, take it slow." The white-eyed wolf hurriedly waved his hand. Unknowingly, the soul-sealing valley entered their sight. But they didn't approach. The group landed on the mountain peak and watched from afar. Long Chen was in charge of extracting the ultimate mysteries. Long Qin assisted from the side. Xiao Shua and the other two were even more busy. After observing for a moment, Lu Jiajin nodded in realization and said, "So that's how it's extracted. This Long Chen is really scary. He has another identity." Qin Feiyang smiled. "What identity?" The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were suspicious. "Ice Dragon's son," Qin Feiyang said. "What? He's actually Ice Dragon's son." Their eyes trembled. Immediately after, a hint of killing intent flashed in the eyes of the inner demons. "Don't be impulsive. Now we've reconciled. Furthermore, Long Chen is a person worth befriending," Qin Feiyang hurriedly said. "Reconciled?" The inner demons frowned. Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment, but soon understood what the inner demons meant. He smiled and said, "We reconciled with Long Chen and Long Qin. Ice Dragon hasn't." The inner demons nodded and slowly withdrew their killing intent. Lu Jiajin was more indifferent and asked, "So, you have a lot of ultimate mysteries now?" "Yes." Last time, when we captured the core members of the Sea clan, we obtained tens of thousands of ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws, and countless ordinary ultimate mysteries of the laws. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "Then, everyone in the Devil's Land can master the will of heavenly Tao?" The inner demons was surprised. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Your actions are a bit too big." The inner demons was amazed, then looked at Long Chen from afar and whispered, "It seems that this person is indeed different from his father. What happened back then?" Since the topic had changed to this point, the white-eyed wolf couldn't help but ask. "Let's go to the tea garden first and sit down and talk slowly." Qin Feiyang smiled and said. Without disturbing Long Chen, the group turned and left. Tea garden. Qin Feiyang brewed a pot of Bodhi divine tea. "This is supreme-grade divine tea." Lu Jiajin tasted it, and his eyes lit up. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Supreme-grade divine tea is rare in the Central Dynasty. Where did you snatch this from?" Lu Jiajin was curious. "Snatch? Cough, cough. Don't be so rude." Qin Feiyang smiled and explained, "This is a gift from Lord Jiu." "Lord Jiu?" Lu Jiajin and the inner demons were stunned. "Lord Jiu of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan." Qin Feiyang said. "What? You have something to do with the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan?" The inner demons frowned. We have long wanted to tell you about this, but we never had the chance. Actually, my lord, the Divine King, the sovereign of the human race, has secretly formed an alliance with us. Qin Feiyang said. Alliance? The two of them looked at each other. There was such a thing? It took us a lot of effort to persuade them. So in the future, when you meet the Divine King, my lord, sovereign, heavenly Lord Ji, and Lord Jiu, you have to be gentle. Qin Feiyang smiled. We almost did more harm than good. If it weren't for you Lao, I would have killed the Divine King and my lord when we went to the mythical island last time. The inner demons smiled bitterly. If they had killed the Divine King and my lord, the alliance between Qin Feiyang and the three major races would have collapsed, and Qin Feiyang's plan would have been disrupted. There's no need to worry about things that didn't happen. Tell me, where have you been all these years? This was what Qin Feiyang was most concerned about. All these years. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin couldn't help but fall into deep thought. It's a long story. After a long time, Lu Jiajin sighed deeply. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, back then on the third floor of the Divine Ruins, we also thought we would die. However, in the end, the ice dragon and the little critter didn't kill us. Not only did they not kill us, they even sent us to a place. Where? The three of them were surprised. I don't know. A place we've never seen before. Apart from a statue, there was nothing else. Lu Jiajin said. A statue? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. Yes. A statue. This statue doesn't have a face. We don't know who it is. Ice Dragon and Small Beast didn't tell us either. They only told us that if we sat under the statue, we would get twice the result with half the effort. At first, we were skeptical, but when we really sat under the statue and began to cultivate, we found that it was really different. In just half a year, we broke through from War God to Divine Lord. And in less than a year, we broke through from Divine Lord to Paragon God. Even comprehending the ultimate profound was like the help of God. Lu Jiajin said with disbelief. It can't be. Qin Feiyang and the other two were shocked. In less than half a year, they broke through from War God to Divine Lord. This speed could only be described as abnormal. However, a lot of things happened during this period. That ice dragon would come looking for us whenever it had the time and beat us up until we were covered in wounds. Especially the inner demons. No matter how badly they were beaten, they were still arrogant. You can say that. Every time Ice Dragon appeared, it was the end of the world for us. Lu Jiajin smiled bitterly. Sooner or later, I'll get even with him. The inner demons snorted, killing intent flashing in their eyes. Qin Feiyang frowned. Ice Dragon kept beating the inner demons and Big Cousin, but he also injured them and sent them to that magical place to cultivate. Was it really like what Long Qin said, that Ice Dragon was nurturing the inner demons and Big Cousin? We won't die anyway, and we can't escape, so we just calmed down and cultivated. We became stronger day by day. Until we mastered the will of the heavens, Ice Dragon suddenly found us and gave us a mission. The mission was to sneak into the Central Dynasty. Lu Jiajin said. What? You already mastered the will of the heavens before entering the Divine Kingdom? The white-eyed wolf was shocked. Yes. Lu Jiajin nodded. This. Qin Feiyang and the other two were in disbelief. What kind of place could let the two of them comprehend the ultimate profound of the 6 ultimate profound laws so quickly? They had always thought that the two of them entered the Central Dynasty and were valued by the Emperor, who gave them the inheritance. They didn't expect that they had comprehended it themselves. Chapter 42:17 5 unparalleled geniuses. It's not that I'm looking down on them, but I'm afraid they aren't even qualified to carry his shoes. The white-eyed wolf snorted. Lu Jiajin and the blood demon looked at each other. Between the mysterious youth and the 5 unparalleled geniuses, they didn't dare to say who was stronger or weaker. Because they had never seen the 5 unparalleled geniuses before, they had no idea how strong they were. However, they had experienced the youth's strength. Apart from the 3,000 clones and origin force, the other means weren't very impressive. He hadn't comprehended the law of life and death. He only had one will of the heavenly Tao. The battle soul hadn't appeared. If the youth didn't have the origin force, the inner demons were confident in defeating him. Of course. It was also possible that the youth hadn't displayed his full strength. But there was one thing to be thankful for. The mysterious youth was their partner, not their enemy. If the youth became their opponent, to be honest, with these means of the youth, they would have a headache just thinking about it. How long will it take for the Central Dynasty to reach the 4 great continents? Qin Feiyang asked. About 3 months. Lu Jiajin pondered for a while and said. So long? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Between the 2 continents, not only is there a separation of origin force, but the 2 seas also have the power of law. We can't teleport or use voice transmission. Lu Jiajin explained. So that's the case. Qin Feiyang nodded. Since they couldn't teleport, they could only fly. 3 months wasn't a long time to fly from one continent to the other. Will the Emperor of the Central Dynasty also be restricted by this? The madman asked. The only one who isn't restricted is the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. Lu Jiajin nodded. 3 months, the madman pondered for a while and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, saying, It seems that our plan will have to wait a little longer. If the people of the Central Dynasty don't come, this plan will be meaningless. It's best to do it in front of the Emperor. Qin Feiyang nodded. What plan? Lu Jiajin and the inner demons looked at the 3 of them curiously. A plan to protect the god race, the human race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race. You will know in the future. Now, do you still need ultimate profound? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. The inner demons stared blankly for a moment before chuckling. If you want to give it to us, we won't hold back. It's better to be polite. The white-eyed wolf bared its fangs. Get lost. The inner demons rolled their eyes. The white-eyed wolf laughed and suddenly changed the topic. What do you think about the sky prides of the 3 major races? What else can I say? Just a bunch of trash. Back then, when I went to challenge them, I didn't even use a 10,000th of my strength. All of them fell to the ground like dead dogs. The inner demons were full of disdain. You've already grasped the will of the heavenly Tao. How can they compare to you? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Wasn't this bullying? Anyway, I just looked down on them. The inner demons waved its hand. If that's what you said, then I'll give up. I wanted to find a chance to train them. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. You still want to train them? I don't want to criticize you, but you're worrying too much. Instead of wasting energy, it's better to train the people of the Black Tortoise Realm. The Black Tortoise Realm is so big. There must be a few geniuses born there. The inner demons glared at him. Ultimate Profound was a precious resource. Besides, Ryuko and the others were trained by the Lord. Why did an outsider like you worry about that? Qin Feiyang quickly reminded, we're outsiders to the human race and the god race, but you can't say the same about the purple-gold divine dragon race. What? You really want to train the purple-gold divine dragon race? The inner demons frowned. How should I put it? The Lord is the grandfather of our ancestor. Lord Ji is our ancestor's uncle. Even if he is the son of the dragon, he is still our ancestor's cousin. If the Lord is still the same as before, then there's no need to say more. But now, we've formed an alliance with the purple-gold divine dragon race, especially the elders like Lord Ji. They treat us like their own children, so there are many things we have to consider now. More. Our ancestor's birth mother, the daughter of the Lord, has contributed a lot to the sky cloud realm. If it weren't for her, the great Qin would have been destroyed. Qin Feiyang sighed. You mean, our ancestor's birth mother is still alive? The inner demons were surprised. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Where is she? Is she in the Black Tortoise realm? The inner demons were looking forward to it. It was because of this woman that the current Qin clan existed. The inner demons were born because of Qin Feiyang, and since the princess of the divine kingdom was Qin Feiyang's ancestor, she was naturally the ancestor of the inner demons. No. I'm afraid you can't imagine where she is now. Qin Feiyang smiled. Where? The inner demons were curious. The great Qin. Qin Feiyang smiled. The great Qin. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin looked at each other. This was indeed a bit unexpected. I have to thank Long Chen for this matter. Qin Feiyang smiled. What does it have to do with him? The inner demons were suspicious. Qin Feiyang explained in detail how the princess of the divine kingdom went to find Long Chen and went to the great Qin. So that's how it is. The inner demons suddenly understood and frowned. What is this Long Chen trying to do? Why do I feel that he's always thinking about you? That's why I respect and admire him. Qin Feiyang smiled. Don't think of the problem so simply. Isn't there a saying like that? One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. The inner demon snorted. You're measuring the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure. The white-eyed wolf looked at him with disdain. Damn, even you trust him so much? The inner demons looked at the white-eyed wolf in surprise. There's no other way. We've all seen what he's done. If we still suspect him after all this, then we'll be heartless. The white-eyed wolf said. All right. I'll reserve my opinion. The inner demons felt helpless. Qin Feiyang looked at the inner demons and asked suspiciously, there's one more thing. Did you comprehend the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death after entering the divine kingdom? Yes. I comprehended the law of life and death a long time ago. But the ultimate meaning was comprehended in the central dynasty. It's also because I comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death and Big Cousin's eye of nothingness evolved that the Emperor values us so much. The inner demons nodded. The other half of the eye of nothingness is in the central dynasty? Qin Feiyang frowned. That's right. He's also a genius and is extremely arrogant. But I'm sorry, he's unlucky to have met us. We beat him to the ground in a few moves. The inner demons smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. To have met the inner demons, that person was indeed unlucky. He continued to ask, then, did you find the other half of the Eye of Reincarnation in the Central Dynasty? Eye of Reincarnation, the inner demons pondered for a while and shook their heads, not really. We haven't even heard of any information about the Eye of Reincarnation. So, the Eye of Reincarnation might really be in the sky cloud realm? Madman frowned. It's hard to say. Qin Feiyang shook his head. They still have to investigate thoroughly in the Divine Kingdom. Because they can't rule out the possibility that the owner of the Eye of Reincarnation has a low-key personality or has been hiding in the dark. You can ask the monarch and the others to help investigate the 4 continents. As for the Central Dynasty, wait for us to go back and investigate it carefully. Also, investigate the background of the Death God Army. Lu Jiajin smiled slightly. Death God Army, Qin Feiyang murmured and frowned. From what you said before, if you don't have the trust of the Emperor, I'm afraid it will never be possible. So this is where we are worried. Lu Jiajin sighed. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, and his eyes suddenly lit up. The reason why the Emperor doesn't trust you is because he doesn't know your origin. If we find an opportunity to let him know your origin, won't it dispel his worries? Can we let him know our origin? The inner demons was speechless. Of course it's not my true origin. Qin Feiyang smiled. The inner demons looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and asked, "You mean, create a fake identity?" Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. This wasn't the first time he did this. He was very experienced. Lu Jiajin shook his head and sighed. The idea is good, but the Emperor is not stupid. How can it be so easy to fool him? If we can't fool him, it will make the Emperor more suspicious of us. Then it depends on our acting skills. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, full of confidence. Lu Jiajin couldn't help laughing and nodded. Okay, since you are so confident, let's give it a try. But what if he asks the inner demons to take off their masks? That's easy. Just change your face. The white-eyed wolf said. Lu Jiajin smiled helplessly and said, "Do I need you to remind me of this little trick? We have thought about it. What we are afraid of is that the Emperor will ask the inner demons to take the face-restoring pill or use the Heaven's Eye Stone to investigate." Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf's face froze. He laughed at his cousin for being stupid, but it turned out that he was the stupidest one. How about this? Qin Feiyang looked at the inner demons and said with a smile, "I'll have to trouble you first. Make your face scarred." Scarred? They looked at each other. Make your face unrecognizable and make up a sad story. Maybe it will not only dispel the Emperor's suspicion, but also arouse his sympathy. Maybe he will even take you as his adopted son. Qin Feiyang smiled. Adopted son? The inner demon's mouth twitched. Adopted son or whatever, it doesn't matter. But this is a good idea. The white-eyed wolf thought for a while and nodded. This is a bit of a test of acting skills. Can you do it? The crazy man looked at the inner demons with a teasing smile. Who are you looking down on? The inner demons glared at the crazy man and then looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, "Okay, it's easy to make my face unrecognizable. But I'm not good at making up stories. You make it up." Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, "Let's talk about the specifics first." In short, they must gain the Emperor's trust. Otherwise, they would never know the foundation of the Central Dynasty. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.